Okay, hello. I am just getting set up here, but welcome back. We are in the middle of playthrough of When the Night Comes by Lunar Games, available on both Steam and itch.io. And yeah, we played chapter 1 and 2 yesterday, and it was really fun. It's up on as a VOD on my channel and also on my YouTube channel, which is also great and right. I think there's links on my Twitch page and Linktree and everything. But yeah, I'm very excited. We will be covering probably the next 2, maybe 3 chapters. I don't know exactly how long we're gonna go for. But yeah, upcoming next is the Lunar Festival and then chapter 3. So yeah, I'm excited to dive back into the game and see how it goes. But I had tons of fun playing yesterday, my first stream ever, so I'm very excited to continue with this game. So I hope that some of the things, I tried to get the audio a little louder. I don't know how well that's gonna go, just because my microphone is not the best, but hopefully try to boost it up a little bit and try and change some of the audio settings within the game so it's not overpowering. And yeah, so I think we will dive back in to that there. All right, so last we left off, we had just passed out after a night of talking to ghosts and just hitting the town, meeting lots of people. We talked to very creepy twins in the Ibex. There's a ghost in our head now, and now someone who knows, someone is knocking at our door for mysterious reasons. Oh. I opened my eyes to the incessant sound of fists banging on my door. My head is still pounding, a fuzzy haze settling over me as I drag myself from the relative comfort of my bed and attempt to ignore the ache that has made itself at home behind my eyeballs. I blink once, twice, and shit. It's dark? Surely I slept for more than a few hours.
You better hope you're dead in a bloody ditch somewhere.
Okay, I'm going to redo some of the audio levels very quickly. Let's turn the voice up because, we want to be able to hear everyone. I don't know how it's coming across on that end, so I think that's a good compromise. So yes, August has come to fetch us aggressively. Fuck. Hunter N writes, if you don't open this door in the next 5 seconds, then you'll have to pay for a new one. I grimace, thinking that might actually be the preferred option right now. Did I really sleep for a whole day? Well, at least my death will be at the hands of something other than a ghastly creature, I suppose. Small victories. Just a very attractive enforcer. I look out of the window, and it's most definitely past sundown. Lunaris is covered in snow, a pristine blanket of perfect white glistening in the moonlight. There are more people in this street than I've seen the whole time I've been in Lunaris, and they're hanging brightly colored bunting from between crooked little houses.
I have things to do. Important things. I can hear you in there, you know.
The thought of opening the door and seeing August ready to tear my head off is less than appealing, especially when I probably look like I've been dragged through a fey nest and left for dead. I gather my wits and shout as cheerily as I can muster. I'll be down in 5 minutes. I hear a series of incoherent mumbles from the other side of the door, followed by a clack of heels as they walk away without much of a fight. I get the feeling I'm in a lot of trouble. Wonderful. I'm also going to boost the sound up just a bit, or the music volume up, just to make sure it's coming across on that end as well. Okay, well, how about there? Okay. The wolf is full to the brim with red-faced patrons, all wearing far fancier outfits than the usual uninteresting garments they tend to sport. I also see August scowling in the corner, but I almost don't recognize them out of their uniform. They spot me, and I can almost feel my blood freezing as that ice-cold gaze fixes upon me.
We thought you were missing. I almost had a search party sent out for you.
Baby, I was in my room. I was sleeping. You look very good, though. You look so good. Sorry. And just as a note, we are doing a non-romance path for this playthrough, so we unfortunately will not be romancing such characters as August, despite them looking absolutely gorgeous. But I thought it'd be fun because it's something I haven't done it yet in the revamp. I did in the original route. And if you want to see some of the romance options, please feel free to download the game yourself. It's extremely reasonably priced. I believe it is 13 USD. Yeah, it's absolutely excellent. But we will be playing the sort of common route / non-romance path. Alright, so sorry boss, I overslept. I really am sorry, General. I overslept. I promise I won't make it a habit. I don't have time for excuses. You missed your chance to brief us when you didn't show up for our meeting this morning. Oh god. But nothing. I sat in silence, thinking it might not be such a good idea to push them. If you had attended this morning meeting, you would know that there's quite an important event happening this evening. We don't have much time, thanks to your tardiness, so please bear with me while I explain.
We are in the middle of a crisis, yes, but the Lunar Festival is unavoidable. Harry thinks that if we postpone or cancel it, the town will erupt into chaos.
They need stability more than ever right now, and the last thing we need is more panic. Lunar Festival? A festival, while there are horrible murders being committed? Trust me, I know. It's quite abhorrent, to be honest. It's a yearly tradition that's been around for centuries, one that Harry holds dear. He's been distant lately.
We need our leader back. And if this helps, then I'm willing to play along. And I expect you to do the same. No questions asked, understand?
I hardly agree. And I have more than enough on my mind that I need to figure out. But the look August is giving me tells me I have little to no choice.
And between you and me, I personally think it's a complete and utter waste of time and resources. Especially in the middle of such a crisis.
They sigh heavily, shrugging as if they've already admitted defeat. Alas, it's more important to Harry that we stick to said tradition to show the people of Lunar that everything is exactly as it should be. So, just forget about the horrible murders and my sworn duty to protect and serve the people for a night then? Yes, we've got it. And I don't have a choice? Do you ever? Oh, harsh. Point taken. A rather loud cheer rings out from the doorway and August grimaces, running a hand over their face.
The festival itself takes place in the market. Please represent us well, Hunter. All eyes will be on you. And this is the perfect opportunity for you to introduce yourself to the town.
We're heading about town. Then they look me up and down, apparently unsatisfied with my presentation. You'll want to change into something a little more interesting, and I suggest you find someone to escort you. It would look a little odd having you wander around by yourself. We have to show solidarity. Oh man. So you can now choose who you want to go to the festival with, which is very sweet. And if you're on one of the romance paths, there's plenty of chances to flirt with characters in the game. And it's just a sweet time. I think for this one we will be going with our girl Piper, and we will, again, unfortunately, not be flirting, but we'll just be bonding with our new bestie. So yeah, we're gonna go with our girl. Is Piper also required to attend the festival? She is, but she's expected to work. She's been assigned as guard this evening. I see. They sigh, clearly exasperated that I apparently have an interest in her whereabouts. If you're going to seek her out, just see to it that you don't disturb her work. And don't forget to change. I nod, smiling politely. Yes, General. Good evening, Hunter. They tug on an expensive-looking fur coat and head out into the chill. I look down at my outfit, sighing as I resign myself to the fact I probably should change. I head out into the snow-covered night, taking in the strange beauty of the town as I draw nearer to the market. A lush blanket of white covers the tops of crooked little houses, a dusting settling in on the cobblestones while it still falls from the sky in a gentle flurry. See in the background? It's very cute. As when we first entered Lunaris yesterday, the background changed, we have all this snow built up, and it's very sweet. It's very, not quite seasonally appropriate yet, as it's just turned fall here. I think literally today, right? I think it's equinox. But yeah, very still appropriate, and the music is all whimsical. Lunar certainly has charm, and while it's quiet like this, it can almost be mistaken for being peaceful. I hear rustling, and then a quiet whispered string of curses. Hi. What's up? Of course, it's Alcar. What are you doing? I'm shocked to see him actually wearing an additional layer, but his feet are still bare. That's gotta be cold. Like I know you're a wolf, but that's gotta be cold. Also, this little cloak is very cute. Aren't you cold? Yeah, exactly. I'm a lichen. I'm never cold. Fair point. He shrugs, rubbing the back of his neck before throwing me a quick wave, turning to leave. Wait, are you going to the festival? Yes, unfortunately. Want to walk there together? He groans, rolling his eyes. I guess. Keep up, though. We walk in silence, Alcar kicking the snow as we go. He's not exactly interesting company, but he's quite fascinating to watch. Eventually he sighs, deciding to strike up some conversation. So, are you just gonna wander around all alone? No, I'm gonna try and find Piper, actually. Noise of disgust. He makes a disgusted noise, gagging for dramatic effect. I can't help but laugh at his theatrics. No love lost between you two? He scoffs.
She hates me, I hate her. It's a mutual hate fest. At least you'll find her easily if you arrive with me. I'm sure she stuck a tracking dart up my ass when I wasn't looking.
We reach the edge of the market, and I'm taken aback by how colorful it is. It's full of life, bursting at the seams with smiling faces and laughter. Wow, this is impressive. Look how cute this market is. Yes, people are getting murdered in this town, but also, wouldn't you want to live here? It's so cute and charming. Oh, that did not show up. Sorry if you heard an obnoxious dinging sound. Okay. Alcar shrugs, scratching his chin, his eyes darting around. I'm gonna go and find Ezra and the idiots before Merriman shows up. It's a cool band name. The Idiots? The Vampire and the Demon. Who else? Yeah, tracks. What an affectionate way to refer to them. It's so cute. He lets out a sharp, quick laugh, quite pleased with himself. I know. Anyway, laters. Bye! And he's gone. I only wonder where to begin looking for Piper, but as a loud crash followed by a pain squeal rings out just around the corner, I think I might be in luck. Sure enough, I only need to take a few steps, and I find Piper with a weaselly young man in her grip. She has him pinned, his arm twisted behind his back as she snarls in his ear.
Touch any of these ladies' wares again, and I'll cut off one of those grubby little fingers. Got it?
There you go. The man nods quickly, and I don't blame him. Drop the goods, and I won't have you arrested for theft. A necklace falls from the fingers of his unpinned hand, and Piper catches it before it can hit the ground. She releases him with a shove, and he darts off into the crowd, whimpering as he goes. She inspects the necklace with narrowed eyes before handing it back to the elderly woman who owns the jewelry stall. Here, sweetheart. You just yell if that knob comes back and I'll come running. Daggers drawn. She's gonna chop him up. The old woman nods, clasping Piper's hands between her own and muttering her thanks. Oh, sweet. Piper turns and spots me in the crowd, offering me a small wave. Oh, look at her little outfit. I love it. It's just such a good color on her, and I love her rings. See a little dagger in the back. It's so good. Hey there, what's kicking? That was impressive. Just keep myself busy, considering this is the most boring night of my fucking life. August assigned you to this? She scoffs, tucking a stray hair behind her ear. They did. Just another in a long line of punishments, I assume.
I'm being made to spend one of the only enjoyable nights of the year in this hellhole, babysitting a bunch of incompetent juniors.
And the most exciting thing to happen is restraining a skinny runt's wrist for getting too handsy with some jewels. Right? You want some company? I'm here. Piper clearly needs a break, and I doubt she's gonna give in that easily. She strikes me as the type to get on with it, no matter how much it irked her. But that doesn't mean she has to suffer alone, right? I'm here to suffer with you. I was looking to see you if you wanted some company, actually. You were? It's your night off, though, and you're sure as shit gonna need it. I shrug, thinking that anything is better than spending the festival wandering around aimlessly. Yeah. I'm quite happily spending with you, Piper. I don't know many people yet, and I don't exactly enjoy doing nothing. Just like any good hunter is conditioned to be. Well, let's do this. So, where do we start? Are you literally just expected to wander around until something happens? Pretty much, yes. Which is why hunters are such an idiotic concept.
We're essentially conditioned to be creature-killing machines. But when you get shoved into a tiny town like this, you end up doing the enforcers' jobs. They are supposed to be the ones policing such events. But they're too busy sitting behind their expensive desks, sipping wine that they can't pronounce the name of.
There you go. Go off. She takes a deep breath, running her hands over the front of her coat. Sorry, I'm a little disheartened lately. I don't blame you. It must be hard.
I've worked myself to death since I graduated to become general. And to have that ripped away when I achieved it at such a young age.
But this isn't the time for such conversations. If I have to guard this shitty festival, then I'll do it right. Come on, partner. We head deeper into the market, seeking out the busier areas, but it might be a little easier for theft to occur. I can tell Piper is restless, her fingers twitching at her side, often reaching to check her daggers are still in place at her back. She doesn't belong here. This job is beneath her. So, I intend to make it as enjoyable as possible for her. I know you can't drink on the job, but hot chocolate is acceptable, right? I point to the stand that sits before us, watching people walking away, clutching cups piled high with cream and marshmallows. Piper grins, eagerly skipping towards it and striking up a conversation with the vendor. She returns with 2 drinks, extra marshmallows, and hands me one with a wink.
This is all well and good, but it would be so much better with a dash of rum.
I take a sip, the sweet chocolate warming me up in an instant. Piper hums her approval, and she visibly relaxes, any tension melting away as she drinks. This was an excellent idea. I think I'll keep you around. So what now? We just wait? There doesn't seem to be much trouble. Oh, Gray, you underestimate the stupidity of people of Lunaris. I'd rather take on a coven of evil witches than deal with these idiotic townsfolk. Again. Shall we head for the magical goods stall? That tends to be the place where the most stuff happens. That shit is expensive. We finish our drinks and move along, the crowd thinning as we find stalls that Piper mentioned. I spot Ezra, browsing the herbalist wares, no Alcar, Finn, or Omen in sight. Hey. Hello, both. Piper nods, polite but unenthusiastic considering how charming Ezra can be. So, Ezra, because I don't know, I'm used to Ezra being beside Finn and being shorter, so it's cute to see him be taller. Ezra, where are your odd little friends? Oh, they're about. Don't worry though, I've got my eye on them. Piper doesn't seem convinced, not so subtly turning to look for the missing creatures. They're at the docks getting spot for the fireworks. You don't need to worry. It's not Casimir the demon I'm worried about. It's that bloody wolf. Did you know he broke into my house the other night? I stand in awkward silence watching them stare each other down. Ezra doesn't seem surprised, or bothered for that matter. I know they're not your responsibility, but you associate yourself with them, and people are going to talk. They mean no harm. Alcar is... well, he's Alcar. I know all about Alcar being Alcar. The mood shifts in an instant, and Piper cuts back a shaky inhale through clenched teeth. I just don't want you to get hurt. I can handle it. I can handle myself. I know. I'm gonna go and find them. Take care, both of you. Piper looks guilty, clenching and unclenching her fist at her side. I always do this. You're just being cautious. You're just being cautious, girl. You're just doing your job, Piper. Just because someone says their dog doesn't bite doesn't mean they won't when provoked. I know, but I always go about it the wrong way. I take a step closer, the urge to reach out and comfort her overwhelming. It really is! Caring isn't a weakness. No, I guess not.
Didn't you see those big sad eyes?
Oh.
He's like a loyal puppy. One that I just kicked.
Oh, yeah, a little bit. I laugh at that, unable to stifle it. He does have very big eyes, and they're very cute.
Shit.
I'll apologize next time I see him, though I'm sure he'll run a mile to avoid the risk of a repeat of that shit show. We're trained to always be cautious of any creature, be it good or bad. You're doing amazing, never doubt that. Piper clicks her neck, stretches out her arms. I'm restless, I haven't had a good hunt in days. She runs her tongue over her teeth, contemplating her next move. A wolfish grin crosses plum-covered lips. colored lips. Yep. Come on, we're gonna check up on the juniors. I bet the little shits are slacking off. The crowds appear to be thinning. Speak. People beginning to head out towards the docks and the beach, ready for the fireworks. Piper leads the way, striding confidently with purpose. She suddenly places her arm in front of me to stop, holding it there and pressing her finger to her lips. There they are, just as I suspected. She's looking directly at a small group of, well, kids. What are you gonna do? They can't be any older than 18, and the four of them are huddled closely, nursing overfilled bags of treats. They're laughing, joking, kicking snow at one another, and Piper is pissed. Just wait here. Piper grins, sneaking off, and I watch her intently as she crouches behind a wall, a perfect view of her targets. She's roguish, and I long to see her in the field. She gathers a handful of snow, molding into a rather impressive ball in her palm. She stands quickly, hurling it at the group. It lands directly in the face of one of the boys, and the look across his face is positively hilarious. One of them yells they spot her, and all I can see is her jesting wildly at them, their cheeks turning red as they drop their treats to make a run for it. She's still shaking her head as she returns to me, her coat and hair covered in a dusting of snow.
And there we have it, our future. A bunch of snot-nosed little shits who would rather slack off than save humanity.
Is training school really that lax these days? Back in my day, we never could have gotten away with that.
They don't know how lucky they are. I'd kill to go back to school. I was in my element there. Top of my class, training every day.
God, I so would not want to go back to school. She sighs wistfully. Killing monsters, but having to write a bloody report about it afterwards. Those were the days. Her eyes grow wide as she focused on something behind me, and she mutters something under her breath, standing a little taller.
Shit.
Oh. I turn to find Harry approaching, my stomach sinking as I remember I left both him and August down today.
Well, well, if it isn't my two favorite hunters. I trust you're enjoying the festival?
Yes, sir. Of course, it's wonderful as always. I spare a glance at Piper, perplexed by her unusually polite tone. She shakes her head, subtle enough for Harry to miss it, a warning to not question her, if I'm correct. Harry turns to me, his smile bright but curious. We missed you this morning, Gray. Are you alright? Piper throws me another look, her brow raised in question. I smile politely, as apologetic as I can muster. I do apologize, Harry. I have some things to discuss with you, but I can assure you my excuse is genuine. He stares for a moment, seemingly unconvinced, but then he laughs. You don't have to apologize. I have every faith in you, Gray.
Anyway, I'd better get going. It's firework time. Are you coming to watch?
Piper interjects before I get a chance to respond.
We're on our way there right now, Lieutenant General, sir.
Harry nods once, already moving along. Enjoy the show, and I'll see you tomorrow, Gray. I think he hates me. I laugh, wondering why on earth she would ever think that. He was perfectly polite to you. What gives you that impression? Well, August is firmly large in his asshole, so I have no doubt that they've whispered all the terrible things about me in his ear. I'm sure August wouldn't do that. Maybe. Wow. Convincing. Thanks for that. You're good. You're good. You're a great hunter. You should not have been demoted. Her demotion has clearly knocked her confidence, and I intend to build it back up. Whatever it takes. Can I just say something? Of course you can. I take a deep breath, just for added effect. She smiles, shaking her head incredulously. I admire you, Piper. You've lost what you've held most dear, and yet you still walk around with your head held high. Right, No, I mean it. You're amazing, Piper. I don't know what happened, and you don't have to tell me, but don't give up.
You're so kind. I don't really know what to say. I wanted to hate you from the moment I heard you were arriving. But you're making it very hard.
You can still hug me a little bit. It's okay. We better head off with the dogs if you want to see these fireworks. And I better get back to work mode just in case August spots me. We find a quiet spot near the back. Quiet spot at the back, near the edge of the market, somewhere where Piper can get a good view of the crowds. She leans back against the wall, gazing up at the stars. Oh. We have someone joining the stream. It's my cat. She's come and she's on my lap. There's a good sunspot that comes in through the window that it gets in my eyes, but it also is the perfect spot for her to sit in the sun and on my lap. Say hi, Lucy. She leans back against the wall, gazing up at the stars. The night is clear, considering there's been so much snow, and she smiles to herself, nudging me playfully.
Thanks for tonight. It was marginally less shit with you keeping me company.
Happy to help. Let's watch the fireworks. I nudge her back, earning a snort. I laugh quickly, becoming a firm favorite of mine. It's nothing. I would have been miserable alone if it weren't for you. Plus, I enjoyed seeing you in action. She groans loudly. Ugh, how pathetic, really. Skinny thief who kind of snapped in half with my little finger and a bunch of lazy juniors. Not my finest evening on a job. Suddenly, the sky lights up, a burst of color popping against the backdrop of stars. Piper sighs, her gaze fixed upon the crowd rather than the sky. The townsfolk are enraptured, transfixed. Quite impressive. Piper scoffs, kicking away from the wall, her eyes peeled for any trouble. Her and Lunaris, I suppose. I held my agreement, and Piper turns to stand before me, an impish grin on her lips. Thanks for keeping me company. You didn't disappoint. The display comes to an end, the crowd cheering, clapping. As I open my mouth to respond, a chill rolls down my spine. I see Piper tense, feeling it too. Then, in the distance, rings out a terrible, gut-wrenching scream. So, achievement unlocked. We went to the Lunar Festival, and we have very, very cute CG watching the fireworks together. And there we go. Okay, any dialogue options labeled fight in this chapter will leave scenes containing violence and gore. Player discretion is advised. So, the cold winter wind whips up against my skin as I run as fast as I can, sinking deeper into the ominous woodland that surrounds Lunaris. I'm hot on Piper's heels as she's determined and hyper-focused, as am I. There's nothing like the hunt. The way my instincts drive every feeling, my senses sharpened to a knife's edge, every thought is fixated on winning and only winning. I can think of nothing else but finding the source of the distress, a terrible sense of dread swirling deep in my gut. The woods are teeming with every hunter and enforcer Lunaris has to offer, each and every one of us silently hoping that this isn't what we think it is. We're due a body, 7 days, right? That this isn't the 5th victim we've all been expecting. Another of our comrades targeted and slain so brutally and without an apparent motive. Killed simply for doing their job, protecting humankind. My feet pound the frost-crisp grass. Tall trees with gnarled branches that curl inward like talons, almost naked from winter's grasp, looming high above us. I spot eyes glowing in the darkness, and I quickly realize that they're carved messily into the wicked tree trunks. They glow ominously. And as another gust of wind blows, I swear I see them blink. It's very creepy. The trees have eyes, literally. I make a mental note to remind myself to return to investigate, though I'm sure they're nothing new, not in a town like this. Piper skids to a stop, her fingers diligently hovering just above a handle of each of her daggers that sits safely in the holster on her back. There she is. Oh, God, she looks so good. Did you hear that? Quiet but obvious whisper echoes amongst the trees. A pain groan from something unquestionably inhuman from a creature. I did. Her fingers switched, so do mine. Eyes narrowed, every sense razor sharp and zoned in on that singular point.
It feels young and inexperienced. It's beneath our skill level. Beneath us.
She says it with such confidence, but her guard is still firmly up. A duo of wide-eyed hunter sergeants that have been ordered to tail us arrive at our side, their cheeks rosy from the harsh bite of the winds. Major? Piper opens her mouth to respond, but she pauses, looking at me.
You're the highest rank here, General. Do we move on and let these two handle it? Or do you fancy working out some tension?
You know what? We're gonna fight. Piper wanted to fight. That she missed hunting. I could always do working out a little tension.
That's what I was hoping you'd say. I haven't had a good fight in what feels like forever.
So look at her little blush is so cute. Yeah, we're gonna go and fight. I turn to address the sergeants. Continue heading for the rendezvous point. If you encounter General Windelheim, tell them we're on our way. They nod a little too eagerly and run onward. The hairs on the back of my neck rise the second they're out of sight. My body is gearing up for a fight, adrenaline coursing generously through my veins. I close my eyes and clear my mind. I can hear the steady, sure thrum of Piper's heartbeat, the quiet rustle of the grass, the leaves rustling in the trees. Then I feel it. A vampire. a youngling. Her aura is frantic and skittish. She's only just awoken. She's hungry and scared. She's trying to hide. I smile. We're out quite far. I always used to find younglings in this area. She can likely sense there's a clan here. She's either seeking guidance or an easy meal. It's too dangerous to let her live. She's unstable. And I believe in some of the codex entries and some of the stuff, like the transition between when someone is turned into a vampire is like incredibly difficult. For the first time, you sort of awake with this like ravenous hunger. If any of you are currently reading Dracula Daily, you see that's like literally what's happening to Lucy right now. Spoilers for a book that's a century old or more. Then we kill her. Youngling finally emerges from the tree line. Her vivid crimson iris is surrounded by a black... I don't actually know how to say the word. Sclera? I don't know. Her eyes flicker wildly as she lumbers towards us and focus and impossibly unsteady on her feet. This should be easy. She's clearly deprived of blood. Dark, vining veins surround her wild eyes and creep down her pale cheeks. She wears no shoes, her feet black with mud, and her clothing is torn and saturated with blood. Most of it likely her own. Her death was obviously not a merciful one. She's quite clearly been left to navigate her rebirth by herself, and this never ends well. Ends in the slaughter of innocent lives. Her lips curl menacingly to reveal sharp fangs that she's clearly still getting used to, and she lunges at us without hesitation. We'll block. I block her attack without a second thought, sending her staggering. I know without a doubt that she doesn't stand a chance. Not against me, not against Piper, and certainly not against us together. Probably use some mercy to, she's nothing we can do to help her. The only screech is a deafening sound that leaves my eardrums crackling, but we relent. She tries again, shrieking as she attempts to attach herself to Piper's neck with her fangs bared. Piper glances at me with certain ferocity burning in her gaze, our twin instincts sizzling, itching for a kill.
Not today, sweetheart.
Piper kicks her square in the chest, sending her hurtling towards me. After a swift elbow to the face that leaves her stunned, I grab her about the waist and tackle her to the forest floor. I see myself upon her back, and Piper quickly assists, holding her arm steady where she tries to claw at me. Yelling thrashes and screams, I forcefully grab her hair, yanking her head back. Piper stares down, shaking her head.
Put her out of her misery.
We work in tandem to remove her head clean from her body. It's the only way, however violent it might be. I feel the warmth spray against my skin, the unmistakable smell of copper permeating the air. The visceral sound of tearing flesh and breaking bone fills the clearing, and she turns into nothingness between us. An unrecognizable pile of blood and Sarah, yet another human life stolen, twisted into something evil. Well, that was fun. He says, covered in blood. I rush the dirt from my knees and take a deep breath, watching Piper clean off her bloody dagger on the grass. We should really get going. She turns to face me, and I spot her face covered in a dark splattering of prism. Let me get that for you. Or you've got some red on you. You got some red on you. Not quite. I point at my own cheek, chapping it gently. She looks at me like I'm an absolute idiot. Fair. You've got blood on your face. Oh, well, what's new? You do too. Are you stealing my look? I shrug, scrubbing at my own skin with the sleeve of my coat just to be sure. It comes away a deep crimson. I call it hunter chic. Piper rolls her eyes, sheathing her dagger and swiping her face. She huffs as the slowly drying blood smears across her rusted skin. Piss. Gone? I study her carefully, nodding my approval. Clean as a whistle, or at least as clean as someone who hasn't just slain a feral, murderous vampire. Bad at jokes. Why am I not surprised? She takes a deep breath, looking around the now eerily quiet.
We'd better get going. August will be having an absolute bitch fit.
Piper tilts her head to the side, a loud crack as her bones click back into their rightful place. Let's dash. It's easy to tell what we're dealing with as we draw near to the scene. Dozens of hunters and enforcers of varying ranks saturate the small clearing, the majority of them still dressed in their festival attire, much like Piper and I. We spot a retrieval team emerging from the tree line. Their faces are pale and drawn. It's then that I know they didn't make it.
You're here.
Grim scenario, but damn do they look good in that coat. We are. We ran into some trouble along the way, but we took care of it. I gather that's why you were so late. It's fine. Obviously, such things cannot be prevented.
It's not good news, as I'm sure you can tell.
My heart sinks. I knew, but hearing it out loud is still unpleasant. Do we have an identity? They shake their head. brushing the front of their fur coat that I'm sure they're less than happy about wearing in such a situation.
We cannot identify
Their voice catches.
There is no body. Again, nothing but, well, I don't need to repeat such monstrous details. You've read the reports from the previous murders. Much of the same ghastliness.
Piper scoffs, her shoulders tensing, and I swear I see tears in her eyes. She's hurting and angry. So angry that I can feel it. Goose flesh prickles across my skin thanks to our close proximity. My own emotions waver with the sheer force of it. This is fucking ridiculous.
This cannot keep happening, August.
I flinch, feeling a surge of energy as August reacts. The smell of ozone is suddenly thick in the air. There's a flash in darkness, and violet sparks crackle above their clenched fists, their eyes alight.
Thank you, Piper, for your input. I didn't know this was upsetting. I assumed everyone was enjoying this.
A dozen eyes turn to look at them, and they quickly calm themselves. August looks beyond exhausted, as always. The skin beneath their eyes is purple, their cheeks drawn. Piper opens her mouth to retaliate, but wisely decides against it. This might actually be the first time I've seen her look guilty. August averts her gaze as they cannot bear to look at her. They're upset too.
I suggest you keep your thoughts to yourself in such a situation, unless you have any useful insight.
It's not a question.
Yes. Sorry, General.
Oh. I thought as much. We're all hurting, Piper, not just you. August sighs deeply, sparing us both a woeful glance before they address the gathered forces.
Hunters, any mages present will patrol the immediate area. Generals will head further afield and begin an extensive perimeter search. I want no stone unturned here. Any juniors need to get the hell out of here. You're not equipped to even think about dealing with whatever this thing is. And I won't be responsible for your demise. Anyone else present is to report back to headquarters immediately. We'll need people on the ground in order to reassure the townsfolk. I don't want this causing widespread panic. It's damage control time.
There's a quiet, subdued mumbling of, "Yes, General," as they all dutifully begin to obey August's orders, disappearing in various directions. Would you like me to join in the perimeter search? No, I'd like you to go home. Leave this to the others. We need you ready for anything that might transpire overnight. Of course. Piper fidgets, uneasy. What? You're a major, aren't you? If you were listening, you'll know what I asked of you. The tension between them is yet again immensely unpleasant. Of course, General. She should have expected such a response, and I'll wonder if she'll ever learn. Or maybe she's hoping to rile them up, I can't tell. She throws me a quick, pitiful glance before she glares at August and turns to join her comrades. Later. August massages their temples, inhaling sharply. I notice that their hands are trembling, and I unconsciously take a step towards them, fearful that they might pass out. They hold out their hands. I'm fine. Really. Oh. It's okay. General?
I appreciate your concern, Hunter, really. Anything that ails me is my fault and mine alone.
Now please, head back. I meant it when I said I need you rested.
You'll be the first to hear if anything significant happens. I'll send a messenger to retrieve you when the victim has been identified.
Of course. Good night, and stay safe. If you think I'm staying out here in this for another second, you're sorely mistaken. I have a mountain of paperwork the size of the eye back on my desk. Farewell, Gray. I take a final look at the scene where the enforcer witches have cast their mage lights over a bloodied patch of grass, leaving them to their work no matter how much I long to investigate. There we go. Get the words out. After that outburst, it's best not to question my enforcer's request. I bow my head before I turn, eager to get out of there. As I head back through the woodlands, I notice how eerily silent it is. A strange set of calm washes over me, then a whisper. Harry. I stop dead in my tracks, my hand hovering over my weapon. I see nothing, feel nothing, no matter how hard I concentrate. Then I realize that voice, that familiar yet subdued ache that begins to creep into my temple. James? You deserve to know. The pain ebbs and flows, my breathing growing unsteady, almost as if something weighs heavy on my chest. The fleeting, comforting calm that had just settled over me is snatched away as his voice continues to echo in my mind. Now what? I'm sorry. A sharp, burning pain shoots up along my spine, and I fall to the ground. The snow-covered grass is wet beneath my fingertips. His words were cut off, and after a moment, I'm yet again surrounded by blissful silence. Fucking ghosts. I drag myself to my feet, and now I only have one thing on my mind. One thing I must do. Visit the Lieutenant General and find out what the hell is happening to me. After having no luck finding him in his own office, I head to the only other place I assume he might be at this hour. The door to August's office is thankfully ajar, so I peek around the frame, finding Harry standing alone. His report in his hand, his coat hung over the back of August's chair. He looks exhausted, his eyes red-rimmed. However, when he notices me, he still offers me a bright, earnest smile.
I can't tell you how relieved I am to see you safe.
My throat feels tight, and I can't quite place why. James is doing a good job of making it difficult for me to stop thinking about him. The pain I felt from his final moment was raw, like an exposed nerve. For some reason, when I think of it, I now think of Harry. I need to know why he wanted me to come here, why everything seems to point back to the man standing before me. I need to tell you something, but I need you to promise that you won't think I've lost my mind. Harry narrows his gaze, nodding once. Go on. I visited the graveyard a few days ago when I was still getting my bearings. He stays silent, but I can't help but notice the way his knuckles bleed white as he tightens his fists. I felt an overwhelming sense of grief there. Pain, a yearning for a lost love, a sense of failure, and crippling sorrow. I thought nothing of it at the time. It's not unheard of for those who might have been murdered to feel scared or sentimental in their final moments, in my experience. But Harry drops his gaze, his bright eyes sad and edged with tears. My words threaten to catch in my throat, but I relent. The other night I visited again, and it was almost like something was pulling me there. I heard more, not just memory this time. He spoke to me. He looks like he's seen a ghost. He stares at me wide-eyed, quickly swiping at his cheeks.
Oh, James.
I get the horrible feeling that he's been waiting for this. I need to know. He nods, clearly understanding. Then he takes a deep, shuddering breath.
James was assigned as my very first hunter the moment we both graduated at 18. He'd shown remarkable promise in school, basically skipping all of the junior nonsense that they force on you. I, too, had impressed, so we were placed together in the hopes that we'd become unstoppable. We were inseparable in the field together for decades, until I took this post as Lieutenant General.
Pause, and another deep breath, one that shakes.
But, as well as being my subordinate, he was also my partner, my husband.
My heart sinks, bile rising in my throat. I've read countless reports about him and the infamous Hunter Lane over the years, but I never knew his first name or anything about him other than his incomparable work. Official records tend to omit personal details for the safety of the hunter enforcer in question, unless they become a leader like Harry. They were I don't want to say that one either. Inimitable, the best of the best. Together they killed some of the most nefarious creatures in our history. Like Levi, Finn's sire. And without question, every young trainee aspires to be just like Hunter Lane. To think that he's just gone and what Harry must be going through. I'm so sorry, I had no idea.
For nearly 10 years, yes. But we'd known each other forever. I failed the hunter initiation quite dramatically, and he was taken away to his father's home country to train to become what I'd always dreamed of becoming. Life had other plans for me, but we still found each other in the end. He used to joke that we were destined. The romantic fool. I really don't think it's sunk in that he's gone just yet. I keep thinking he's going to walk through my door, covered head to toe in blood and grime, with a stupid, wonderful grin on his face.
I notice how his eyes light up when he talks about him.
They say that people deal with grief differently, but I haven't quite figured mine out just yet. I apologize for not telling you, but it was important to me that I could trust you first. My judgment has been impaired, I'll admit it, though this turn of events isn't exactly what I expected. All I can think about now is justice. About the others that died before him, and what we could have done to stop it. What I could have done to stop it.
What did he tell you when he spoke to you? His words waver as he mindlessly fiddles with his wedding band, eagerly awaiting my response. I think about what Ezra said about being careful who I share this with. Did that warning apply to the Lieutenant General of all of Escria? No, it's his husband. His husband. He gets to know. He's Lieutenant General. Why would I keep anything from him? He told me to leave. That he failed and that there's no hope. He swallows thickly, his expression unchanging. I got the impression he wanted to say more, but I don't know how he managed to communicate with me in the first place. I think he can only say so much before he fades away. It feels like a great struggle for him to reach out. I cannot explain it. He closes his eyes tight, shaking his head as he can't bear to hear anymore.
I will need you to speak to Augustus about this. They know more about psionic magic than anyone here. I'm sure they'll be able to help you figure this out. I do not trust anyone else.
Then, a hopeful look.
Did he truly not say anything else?
He didn't, but the first night that I felt him, I could tell how much he loves you, Harry. You were all he could think about in his final moments. He laughs quietly.
Yes. Well, he's all I can think about too. A curse now, I suppose.
Silence hangs heavy between us, and I don't quite know what to say next. He looks devastated, understandably. He must have so much on his mind already with the latest murder, and now this. The way he came alive when he spoke about James didn't go unnoticed, and I wonder if maybe talking about him would lift the mood. There's a lot of hunters out there that can only aspire to be half as brilliant as Hunter Lane. I would love to hear what he was like, if you don't mind. His somber expression disappears, and he seems to brighten up a little.
He was a cocky son of a bitch, but it worked well for him in the field. He was never careless, though. I often found myself watching him instead of paying attention to whatever was attacking us. Luckily, he could fight well enough to protect us both, or I'm sure we'd have been in trouble. A lot of enforcers choose to stay cooped up in a stuffy office, away from all that danger. Working with James made me not want to miss a thing.
He digs into his coat pocket, retrieving his wallet and pulling out a small, weathered photo. He pauses, staring me down as he has reservations, but then he hands it over. Oh, they're so sweet. It's of him and James. They look young, beyond happy, and impossibly in love.
We were unbearable to be around, I'm sure.
I study the genuine smiles and the way their fingers are laced together. I may not know James aside from the voice in my head, but I feel a strange connection to him, as if I've known him forever. Thank you for showing me. He tucks the photo back into place, right beside a neatly folded up letter.
Well, apparently he appears to have taken a liking to you. It's only fair for you to put a face to the name, I suppose.
He stares down his hand, once again twisting his wedding band. His expression is neutral when he meets my gaze, but in a split second his disposition shifts to the stiff formality I'm so used to seeing when dealing with figures of authority. I gather that our conversation about his dearly departed is over.
What happened tonight could have been prevented. It's unacceptable that we were so aware of the looming threat, and yet we let our guard down and lost another life. This cannot happen again.
Maybe we shouldn't have had a festival then. I don't know. I nod, agreeing wholeheartedly, but I can't shake the feeling that, yes, this could have been prevented if it weren't for the festival. The festival he was so adamant went ahead despite others' clear apprehension, including August. I think better of pressing the matter. Harry suddenly doesn't seem like a man willing to admit fault. Did you speak to the twins like I requested? I did, and as I'm sure you expected, we didn't get much out of him. A quiet hum, which I think is an indifferent agreement, and Harry sighs heavily. They are rather adept at both lying and sheer avoidance. I am interested in speaking to the brother alone, though. There was something off about him, like he just didn't want to be there. I also came across a letter outside the building, one that was addressed to him. The language looked demonic. Harry sighs in indifference, and I wonder if he even heard me. He clears his throat and flicks his eyes to the side as though he has no interest in humoring me any longer.
There's nothing more you can do here until we've identified the victim. Get some rest. It's late. You're dismissed, Hunter.
Though I'm used to being addressed in such a manner, I'd be lying if I say I wasn't a little perplexed by his shift in his demeanor. I chalk it down to grief, just like he said, but I can't help but feel like I've disappointed him somehow. I turn and quietly leave. as a musical cue. Snow is still falling as I step outside. Though the hour is late, there is certainly no peaceful quiet in Lunar tonight. The streets outside headquarters are bustling with hunters, enforcers, and everything in between. I keep my head down as I make my way towards the wolf. I fall into a trance as I replay my conversation with Harry over and over, trying to pinpoint the exact moment they made him change his attitude so drastically. I'm snapped back into reality while I bump into something cold and hard, finding a pair of familiar golden eyes staring back at me when I look up. Hi, baby. Hey, handsome.
Distracted, are we?
I mean, maybe. Aren't you? I know you're a vampire. Aren't you also cold? I guess probably not. Oh, he's so handsome. I step back, brushing down the front of my coat. I can see that his lips are at the cusp of curling inside in a vaguely amused smirk. You could say that. It's been a long night. He offers me a sympathetic look, shoving his hands firmly into his coat pockets as the duo of enforcers pass by. They make a point to glare at him, and by proxy at me for being near him. Fuck off. Let me talk to my vampire in peace. Finn dutifully avoids their gaze like a man who has centuries to perfect, feigning indifference to the way people treat him, like me treat him and his kind. I'm glad to see you safe, Gray. We were all worried for you when we heard. Thank you, Finn. He turns to check that the street is clear, turning back to me with a serious look. I have my clan patrolling the woods. I'll ensure they're out until dawn searching if necessary. Anything we can do to help find whatever or whoever is doing this. I'm grateful for the assistance, and I certainly can't say I've ever had an entire clan of vampires allies before. I'm optimistic that their help will be of great value to me. That's very kind. After an indecipherable pause, Finn's expression drifts somewhere far away. You know, I was just out there now. I picked up the scent. Something familiar. Familiar how? He steps closer, and there's a certain air of caution in the way he addresses me, as if he's unsure that we're truly alone. I didn't get to hang around. There are too many enforcers, but the blood on that stone we found in the graveyard at the scene of... He pauses, apprehension clouding the way he looks at me. His next words are glum and as dead as his demeanor of Hunter Lane's death. He's testing the waters if the way he holds my stare is anything to go by, waiting to see just how clued in I am. I know about him, Finn. I spoke to Harry just now. He might be a vampire, but the look of shock that crosses his face momentarily isn't exactly subtle. He casts his eyes away from me, the frown that settled in his brow softening around the edges. He licks one of his fangs, thinking with that forlornness that suits him a little too well. I see. And how did that go? I shrug because I can't really offer him anything else. I feel deflated and defeated. Not great. He's in mourning, and I don't think he's in the right mind to be making decisions. Finn purses his lips, contemplating my statement.
That's a bold way to speak of your Lieutenant General, but I don't doubt your instincts. I've lost loved ones, and it's never easy. The mind needs time to heal after such trauma, and all Harry is doing is delaying his grief.
Eventually he throws me a half-hearted smile, but I sense it's something pitiful rather than friendly. I suspect my frustration with my current predicament is glaringly obvious without him having to read my thoughts.
I'm sorry you've been kept so in the dark. I can sense that you're frustrated, and I don't blame you. As much as I may not agree with certain information being withheld, it truly is for your safety.
It's funny because everyone keeps saying such things, but it certainly doesn't feel like anything other than sheer avoidance. He removes a hand from his pocket, running long fingers through his hair with a knowing exhale. Yes, well, I cannot excuse anyone else's behaviors, but I can apologize for my own. Come by the catacombs when you get a chance. I have some things we can discuss that may help. Though spending some time underground in a tomb sounds less than appealing, Finn doesn't look like the kind of man who lives in squalor. Plus, any information is valued, and Finn has lived here long enough to know the ins and outs of this strange little town. Thank you. I'll take you up as soon as I can. He tips his head, encouraging me to follow him towards the wolf, I assume. Come on. I'll walk you home. I'm eager to get inside, and with a few strides I catch up to him, falling in step. I don't require an escort, you know. Everyone seems so set on ensuring I'm safe, but you all seem to be forgetting I was brought here to save the day. Supposedly. He pursed his lips in an obvious attempt to stop himself from laughing, and I watched the bob of his throat as he swallows the noise.
I'm aware that you require no assistance, but think about the hunters that were killed. They were of your caliber, your rank. The best of the best, as the enforcers love to say. The thought of you ending up like them is not a pleasant one.
He has a point, I suppose. Very well, but no coddling, understands? Yes, General. He laughs again when he catches sight of the dramatic roll of my eyes, sidestepping with a startling grace to avoid the elbow I launched towards his ribcage. We walk quietly through the streets, the cobblestones glistening with frost. The moon is full and hangs low in the sky, as it always seems to here in Lunaris, and Finn exhales sharply to break the silence. I glance at him, too tired to ask him about any of the hundreds of questions that run through my mind. I think he knows somehow, because he also seems to have something on the tip of his tongue. We stop outside the wolf, the lantern that hangs above the door, dark thanks to the late hour. I glance up the now familiar sign, a scrappy-looking white wolf howling at full moon, and I laugh. Finn leans against the mismatched brick and stares at me quite intently, his eyes unnervingly bright in the growing darkness. What's funny? You're all masters of being painfully cryptic, and yet I still feel at home. But I shouldn't trust a single one of you, should I? He turns, checking we're alone again before he leans in a little closer, his voice low.
That's for you to decide. So, tell me, Hunter, what does that tricky little gut of yours tell you about all of this? About us? What do you feel?
We should talk? We could spend some time talking. Oh, I need a drink. We'll get a drink. It's a shame the bar is closed. I would kill for a drink right now. The grin he offers me tells me I've probably said the wrong thing, inviting him to be devious. Great. If you think I've lived here for centuries and not broken into the tavern for a late night beverage, then you're sorely mistaken. I don't doubt that, and it's certainly tempting, but no, I shouldn't. I need a clear head tomorrow, as clear as I can muster with all of this fog anyway. I wonder what August would think if their new star general was caught stealing from the local with a vampire. I'm willing to find out. I join him in his laughter, the mere thought of August being informed of such transgressions giving me the boost I need to drag myself up those stairs. You've yet to discover just how easy August is to fluster, and I implore you to find out. They turn quite a startling shade of red. I don't doubt that, but I've seen August mildly angry, and I can't say I'm all that fond of it. I'd rather not get zapped. He shrugs, lips pursed. That's fair. I really should go get some rest.
A pleasure as always. And remember, we've got your back. Should we find anything of interest overnight, I'll come running. Daylight permitting, of course. Good night, Hunter.
Night, then. I return a smile, pushing the heavy door to the wolf open and praying it doesn't creak and wake the other residents. Good night, Finn. I watch him go before I close the door, only the light of the moon guiding his way as he disappears into the darkness. I finally settle upon the hard mattress, the cheap sheets harsh against my skin as I attempt to get comfortable. Light from the low-hanging moon pours into my room. I've scrubbed myself clean, any traces of grime from the hunt, and I can't help but feel irritated from the sheer lack of progress I've made so far. I come to the conclusion that there are too many secret keepers in this town, and I refuse to feel defeated or let it continue. Overwhelmed by today's events, I find myself falling into a swift and dreamless sleep. Reality settles over me when I wake, a thick smog that almost suffocates me as I reluctantly drag myself from the almost comfort of my bed. I haven't had anywhere near enough rest, but I must relent. I gather the energy to dress and head downstairs to face whatever obstacles are hastily and inevitably shoved my way. As my eyes take in the bleary sight of the empty tavern, the hideous sound of scraping of wood against stone assaults my ears. In the corner of the room, Alcar stumbles to his feet, the chair he's been sitting on almost toppling over. He catches it and sets it right, and then grimaces briefly before stalking over to me. It's easy to see the hunch of his shoulders and the stiffness of his posture. For a moment, I wonder if he's hurt somehow, but as he comes closer, it seems more like he's only wary, perhaps? Not unusual, but with the commotion last night, it still puts me ill at ease. I don't need supernatural senses to know that this is going to be another pebble in the mountain of mysteries. He looks a mess. What has he been doing? Rolling around on the forest floor?
Hunter, I need to speak with you.
Formal. He doesn't sound like the aloof, cocky half-lycan I've come to know. He speaks forcefully, but there's a tremor in his voice that's hard to miss. What's wrong? The frown deepens. Instead of explaining himself, Alcor holds out his hand and uncloses his fingers, revealing a crumpled ball of fabric. For a moment, I stare at him and at the thing he's holding without comprehension. Alcor stares back, his expression telling me he thinks I'm an idiot for not getting it. But then I realize the distinctive purple under the dirt and the dry crusted blood, and my stomach drops. A hunter sash. Alcor's holding a hunter sash in his hand. Or what's left of it. The thing is in a sorry state, its original color almost indistinguishable under the grime. Carefully, I reach out to take it from him for a closer inspection. He looks down.
It doesn't belong to the hunter that was killed last night. It doesn't belong to any of them. It's not right. The smell.
I stare at him in disbelief, shaking my head as I feel the gritty fabric beneath my fingers. Then who does it belong to? Alcor shrugs half-heartedly. In the tavern's uncertain light, his face is drawn and his eyes are sunken. Exhausted, I realize, but his tail still flicks back and forth. In impatience or agitation? It's hard to tell with him. All I know is that Alcor's telling the truth, if for no other reason than he's too worn out for deception. I tried, but I couldn't tell. I searched all night with Finn's clan, but we came up short. He looks over his shoulder, checking to ensure we don't have company.
I have to be careful. I can't be seen with such things. They'll...
A sharp exhale, and he emits defeat, his shoulders drooping, ears flat against his head. There's so much bitter resentment in his voice as there is salt.
They'll make me pay for my generosity with my own blood. Again.
The certainty with which he says it makes my stomach drop almost as much as his grim resignation. I won't let them hurt you. I'm not going to let them hurt you, Alcor. I hold up the piece of scrap fabric, handling like it's gold. It might as well be. I have no idea what it might mean for the investigation yet, but it's still clearly something. And I'm well aware of the trust, or perhaps desperation, it took with the seeming pride to come and entrust it to me in person. I hear him scoff. Yeah, I'll pray. For you. I roll my eyes at him. Are we talking about you and your issues here?
I don't have an issue. Well, I'm unlikely to have one if you keep mum about where you found that fabric scrap. Which I'm sure you will, yes?
Asked me to lie to my superiors already? What are we? But I speak in jest, and I make sure my tone communicates as such. I already know discretion must and will be employed once I decide to report this finding to August or the Lieutenant General. I don't want him hurt. I don't want them to hurt him. Alcor smirks at me, resting his hands on his hips. Some of that cockiness finding its way back to him. A welcome sight and one I'm glad to see. Sure, I'll gamble on it. They're worth odds to bet on. He leans closer suddenly, lowering his voice despite the empty tavern.
I don't know how much or how little you've decided to trust the Pomps in that workplace of yours. And I said all that shit about not trusting anyone. But just listen to me this once. Take that to Ezra, not your superior.
He regards me with some beseeching intensity, eyes flickering across my face like he's looking for some kind of give. Something he can trust. I don't know if I can give it to him. Alcor's concerned for his own well-being, I understand, but this is different. Yet, I have no desire to bother Harry this morning, not after last night, and not over an inconclusive scrap of something that smells strange. August is another mystery altogether. Ezra does have a wonderful little shop full of witchy magic. In a town this small, I can only surmise he would be the one with the most tools at his disposal to suss out an analyst for something like this. It does make sense to go to him, which is all well and good because Alcor is beginning to look downright fidgety. Alright, I'll go to Ezra with this. Alcor stares at me for a second longer, like he doesn't know if I was being honest. Eventually, however, his shoulders relax and he takes a step back.
Then my job's done. Hope you don't mind me quitting this place. The tavern's no fun when there's nobody here to annoy.
You can come and annoy me. He drops into a mocking, half-assed bow, his tail swishing, and then all but squeezes himself out the door, right past me before I can do so much as frown. I stare where Alcor has vanished to, and I wonder for a moment if I should chase him down. He's no hunter, and I have a feeling, not entirely natural, that the thing out there isn't interested in lichens, witches, demons, or vampires. It's nothing to do with the killing pattern. It's... Sighing, I tuck my coat a little tighter around myself and reluctantly make to follow his path. Breakfast will have to wait. The shop is empty when I arrive, the comforting tinkle of a bell that sits above the door welcoming me. Ezra is nowhere to be seen, but I do smell... Hi, we're about to meet the best character in the game. I do spot a small white cat curled up at the foot of the shop counter, a curious creature, one that gives off the same soothing magical aura as her assumed owner. Aww. Look at the little pillows in the window. It's so cozy in here. I love it. The purple curtain that separates the shop and living quarters twitches, and Ezra emerges clutching a cup of steaming tea.
I'm so relieved to see that you're okay.
Aww. The cat's ears twitch at the sound of his voice, and she stretches, sauntering over to him and parading herself between his legs. He ignores her, moving to place his tea upon the counter. I heard that you had to depart the festival quite abruptly. We were all worried. I nod politely, offering him a clipped smile. I did, unfortunately. I hope you've had enough rest. You look exhausted, not that I'm surprised after what I assume was an incredibly late evening. Would you like some tea? The sash feels heavy in my coat, and as much as I enjoy exchanging pleasantry with the witch, I'm here for a reason. I actually need your help with something quite urgent. You do? What is it? Both the cat and Ezra watch me intently as I retrieve the sash, the violet, bloodied fabric unfurling as I hold it up. The cat hisses, her hackles raise as she darts into the back room. That, paired with the look Ezra's face, unnerves me, and I sigh heavily, exasperated as he rushes past me to lock the front door. Deadbolt and all. He faces the door, his palms laid flat against the window pane. It glows a pleasant shade of blue as he whispers what I assume is meant to be a word incantation before he turns to join me. Though we're quite clearly alone, his voice is tactfully quiet.
Where exactly did you get that?
The words rush out of him and his aura is panicked. So much so, I begin to feel a terrible sense of unease washing over me. Ezra is the one person I truly had no hesitation about trusting from the start. Someone I thought I could rely on, but I find myself questioning his intentions. Could he possibly already know who this belongs to? And if so, how? Alker found in the woods last night. He told me to bring it to you, and only you. He runs a hand through her curls, and I notice it's shaking. Ezra, are you okay? A heavy exhale, and he closes his eyes, shaking his head before he meets my gaze.
I don't think you understand. This puts us all in danger.
Danger? I don't understand. It's just a sash. I simply hope you can identify who it belonged to. You're aware of who its owner is, I assume, based on your reaction. I play dumb, disguising my interest in the fact that I know it's not the new victims. If he's hiding something, I'll find out. He moves around to the other side of the counter, nervously rearranging a pile of glowing crystals and pushing aside a dish filled with colorful gems. He spares me a glance as he takes his seat, and he forces a smile. Okay, Kat's back on the lap. Took a little break and she's back. I have an inkling, yes. May I? He holds out his hand, which I observe is now perfectly steady. Hot. I'm hesitant to part with the scrap after that little display of uncertainty, but he seems to have collected his thoughts. Are you sure? He nods, wiggling his fingers impatiently.
Sure as I'll ever be. Now, let us get this over with.
As soon as the sash meets his palm, a bright emerald light emanates from his fingertips. The fabric hovers mid-air, suspended by vibrant whirls of magic. The movement of Ezra's hand is fluid like water as he commands his spell. I watch him as awe as a mark forms before him, indecipherable shapes shifting and changing. His eyes are a light brighter than I've ever seen as the blood that coats the sash seems to pull away from the fabric, suspended alongside his magic. It's beautiful, a truly impressive display, but I don't take my eyes off him for even a second. His lips part, his brow deeply furrowed as he concentrates. He doesn't look pleased, and I'm not entirely sure what he's doing, but whatever it is, I just hope that it helps. This is the first solid piece of evidence I've managed to get my hands on, and I refuse to rest until I get a name. A sharp inhale, and Ezra closes his eyes tight, the magic dissipating, and the sash falls and settles upon the wood. He drops his head, his knuckles tight as he grips the edge of the counter. I had a feeling. Ezra, work with me here. I need you to be honest. He looks scared, maybe even a little upset.
This is way bigger than me, but I can't in good conscience keep this from you.
I'm not sure if he's talking directly to me or if he's reassuring himself. I suspect it's the latter. I try to remain calm, and I truly am unsurprised that yet another person in this town has managed to refrain from divulging potentially valuable information. The sash belongs to a girl named Aya Walker. He pushes away from the counter, putting distance between himself and the sash, eyeing it warily. And who exactly is Aya Walker?
I really shouldn't say anymore. I would hate for any harm to come to you because of me.
Harm? Who would harm me over something as insignificant as a name? I'm growing increasingly more frustrated as minutes pass, and Ezra can tell. I know he's not stupid. If anything, he's too smart. I suppose he's just looking out for himself, but whatever knowledge he's retaining is clearly valuable, and I must know. I think back to what Omen said only a few nights ago, about Finn visiting less, about Ezra being tired all the time. Is this connected somehow? No. I could be mean. No, we would never. Okay, you're safe. You're safe. I've got you. I take a cautious step forward, aware that with him being this emotional that I could very well startle him. I spread my hands, showing my palms as a gesture of peace as I approach. Ezra, I'll make sure you don't get punished.
It's not that simple.
I can see he's growing increasingly more frustrated, most likely with himself. I've always had the impression that Ezra is truly an honest man, so whatever he's hiding, he must be doing so with good reason. I hope.
She was a hunter. A general. A good one, too. Another of Lunar's finest. She'd only recently transferred here from a few towns over when she was arrested.
I try not to look too confused, but I can't help the way my eyes widen when he says that. Arrested? He nods. Hunters, especially of general's ranks, are very rarely thrown in the dungeons for minor transgressions. We are too valuable, so what did she do? I don't know why. Nobody outside the Enforcers does. I don't know what to do with this information. A young general being thrown into dungeons is alarming, especially when there's no apparent reason. Treason, murder, unlawful torture, these things are all things I know the hunters have been in prison for, but never without the public having full knowledge. Such events are usually not quiet ones. We have family, friends, we save lives. There must be something somewhere that tells me why she was stripped of her title and thrown in a cell. I take the sash from the counter and tuck it back inside my coat, and Ezra keeps a close eye on the movements as if it might jump out and bite him. Who is her enforcer? Ezra throws me that look again, the one where he looks sad and reluctant. Gus. Of course, because I don't already have enough on my plate already. He quickly scrambles to add to his statement, clearly not wanting me to think ill of August.
Only in the interim while her transfer was processed. She and Piper hit it off quite quickly, but she was gone before she had a chance to thrive.
I take a step towards the door, and Ezra nervously follows. Where are you going? He looks like he wants to reach out and stop me, but he thinks better of it. I'm gonna clear my head before... I don't know. I reach and turn the lock, then for the handle, watching his words shimmer and fade as he reluctantly waves his hands. Something begs at me to pause. Tell me, why are you so afraid?
I'm scared to learn the truth. I've only ever wanted to find somewhere to settle, somewhere quiet and away from the things that gave me nightmares. I found that here. I found love, a family, and yet...
Nothing lasts forever? He shakes his head.
Everything crumbles, eventually. That's why I'm afraid. I just want a normal life.
We stare each other down for a lingering moment, and I truly feel sorry for him, for everyone in this town. I assume that associating yourself with creatures doesn't grant you much peace? It does not. I drop my head, my mind swimming. People are dying and being thrown into dungeons. I've got your back, Ezra, just as long as you have mine. I thank you. Just stay safe. We need you. Chill hits me as soon as I open the door to Ezra's shop and step outside. It hisses in my ears, piercing through my layers like it wants to chase me back indoors. I can think of no alternative more enticing, but my work here is done and I need to move on. Not a moment less well-timed, it seems, as I close the door and immediately notice a familiar face skulking just out of my vision until now. Omen startles when he realizes I've spotted him. He takes a full step away from me, one hand half raised, his tail lashing like a snake. For reasons I can't even begin to fathom, there's genuine fear in his face. Omen? Speak of the devil. Is something wrong? I take a moment to look him over. Omen seems, by all accounts, unhurt. At least he isn't hurt enough that it interferes with glamour, despite his obvious distress. Under my scrutiny, Omen takes a half step back, hugging himself, and I hasten to put him at ease. He isn't an enemy, least of all one I'm willing to make. It's alright. I was just surprised to see you, is all. Oh. Omen looks away for a moment, embarrassed. Then he offers me a half smile, visibly relaxing.
I've been hiding. Things seem to be tense right now.
I can't help but sigh at that. That's one way to put it. I gesture vaguely at him. But what about you? You seem to be in a hurry. Is something wrong? Omen's eyes widen. He opens his mouth, doesn't say anything for a moment, then shuts it. I'm looking for someone. Omen says this very quietly, like he's confessing his secret. He scans my face with eyes flickering red rather than the usual warm brown. I wait since there's little else I can say. And something seems to resolve. Omen looks from me to Ezra's door, then takes a step back, his mouth tight.
She's probably not in there. I should get going. It's nice seeing you again.
He makes a turn away, and I don't know what moves me to act. Perhaps his aura, the way I suddenly sense a swell under its glamour. It's about the wisp of flame trailing from his hair at the tip of his ears. Perhaps he's walking away, and I simply can't let him go right now. Perhaps I'm tired of one more fucking mystery in this town. Either way, I reach out and grab his wrist. Wait! And instantly regret it. Heat scorches my hand, forcing me to withdraw with a small cry. Omen looks over his shoulder at me with glowing amber eyes, his lips drawn back in a half snarl. His still eerily human face is framed by a wreath of fire. Oh my god. My guts clench, twist, drop under the sudden glimpse of immense blistering presence that sprung out of nowhere. My instincts scream at me in warning. Demon. Then Omen jerks back as though out of a trance, and everything extinguishes. I don't know how long we stand outside Ezra's shop, with the space of a sword swing between us. Omen's arms are limp at his sides, making no move to defend himself. All he does is stare at me with huge eyes and palpable horror.
I'm sorry.
Oh. I force my mouth open to tell him it's alright. I've had worse, really, but I can only pry my jaw apart. The words I can't force through. He's not waiting along to hear them. He's stepping away. 1, then 2, then 3, and he turns around and flees. I can't move my legs to follow. By the time I get enough control of myself back, Omen's already long gone. In hindsight, I'm glad I couldn't follow him. It makes a tremendous effort for me to pry my stiff fingers from the comfort of my weapon. Oh! Don't kill your demon friends. I've been sitting in my room at the Wolf waiting for the sun to set. Waiting for darkness to fall so I can carry out my next move. No messenger had come to summon me to headquarters, neither had August come to bang down my door. I gathered that the identification of the deceased hunter is taking a little longer than expected. Or, many dark things crossed my mind, but I pushed them away. I meant it when I said I'm tired of being pushed from pillar to post, kept in the dark. Enough is enough. If this town wants saving, then I'll do it on my own terms. The door to August's office is thankfully unlocked, and I'm pleased to discover that it's empty. The desk is in its usual disarray, papers and books haphazardly strewn across the surface. I take a deep breath and head straight for the filing cabinets I've seen August rummaging through so often, and I carefully open the drawers. Apparently Piper has her own, a whole portion dedicated to her reports. An impressive feat. After so much rummaging, I eventually find Aya's paper stuffed at the very back of the bottom drawer. If I didn't know what I was looking for, they'd easily gone unnoticed. It certainly looks like August has tried to hide them, which only increases my suspicion. I find her transfer papers, a glowing letter of recommendation from her previous enforcer. Her records are clean with no discrepancies. Nothing but praise. I see the words kind and thoughtful repeated multiple times, and the only complaint, if you can call it that, is that her enforcer has said that she was overly cautious. And I find it. Her discharge papers, an obvious red treason stamped across the front page. In the blink of an eye, the whole office lights up, and the door loudly slams against the wall. Baby.
What are you doing?
Oh, again, very pretty when they're angry, but oh, we got caught. I watch Magic coat every surface, flowing and curling over the walls. Floor, furniture. It even creeps over their clothing, their skin too. They stare at me wide eyes, vivid violets swallowing the once ice blue of their irises. And though I should be concerned that I've been caught, I'm distracted. August. The magic that glimmers across their clothing disappears, and their eyes lose that otherworldly glow, but the room remains alight. They look at the bundle of papers that I'm holding tightly in my hand, a frown furrowing their brow.
I would ask that you put those back, Hunter.
No. Their words are eerily calm, and they seem more concerned than annoyed. What happened to her? They close the door, clicking the lock and checking the handle before they walk towards me. As poised and perfect as ever, they stare me down.
You know, not even Piper found those. I hate to admit that I'm impressed.
August. They unfurl their fingers in a silencing gesture, and I pause. August is still my superior officer, and I am nothing if not respectful.
I do not wish for Piper to be demoted, nor do I wish for you to meet the same fate, but I appear to be having a case of déjà vu. But, you know, sometimes the hand that feeds is a forceful one.
I'm perplexed. I expected a much harsher conversation. August isn't exactly known for the calm temperament, and this is startlingly out of character. Aren't you going to admonish me? With a sly smile, they shake their head. No, Gray, I am not.
I believe in you, strangely. I believe that you're a bright light at the end of a very, very dark tunnel for this town. And I have been questioning things lately.
I mean, I am here for you, but I have questions for you. I think I just want the truth. Their uncertainty is startling. They've always seemed so sure, so confident. It's like a different person stands before me. Are they afraid too? I just want to know what happens. Their mouth twists and they sigh deeply. I don't know what happened. I am but a pawn. August, please. I let my frustration show, the papers crumpling in my grip. She's rotting in a dungeon and no one knows why, not even the one who signed her papers. A fierce, bright glow surrounds us, magic crackling at their fingertips. It's hot. Listen, one of my favorite tropes is like magic relating to emotion, and it's really fun. I did not sign them. They take a deep breath.
I couldn't do such a thing. This goes higher than me, far higher.
People are scared to even utter her name. They shake their head, and I notice that I can't get a read on their aura. I'm no liar when I say I don't know. Something in my gut tells me this is all connected, and this doesn't exactly comfort me. The very institution that I work for, that I've dedicated my life to. I move to pull out the sash and let it unfurl, holding it before them, and August's eyes grow wide. Who does that belong to? Aya Walker. Their expression is unchanging. I see. It's bloodied. I nod, handing it to them. They carefully lay it across their palm, studying it intently. Heavily and torn to shreds. Whatever happened, she put up a fight. They frown, their lips purse. Something is clearly perplexing them.
She was not reported to be injured upon her arrest. That much I do know. Something like that wouldn't be omitted.
Sure. I throw them a sorry state, wondering how they could still be so sure of such things. You're positive the blood is hers. I want to tell them how I know, but I can't implicate Ezra nor Alcar, not after they were both so clearly terrified. I'm sure, and I'm going to need you to trust me on that. Strangely, they don't question it. Instead they sigh, placing the sash upon their desk. She was yours, August. Don't you want to know what happened to her? I want to see her, to visit the dungeon. They glance out the window. Another heavy snowfall coats the icy street outside.
I think you need to take a seat. I have a few confessions.
Huh? I can hear the rush of my blood pounding in my skull as I take a seat, my heart trying to escape the restrictive cage in my ribs as I stare my enforcer down. August's fingers are visibly trembling. All color has drained from their skin, and I'm fearful they might faint. They draw in a shuddering breath and reach for one of the drawers in their desk, pulling out a vial that glows with vivid lavender. I recognize it from the very first time I met them back in Ezra's shop, which strangely feels like forever ago. The way they demanded it from him was with a desperation I haven't seen them since, but it stuck with me nonetheless. At first, I think they may pop the cork and swallow it whole, their eyes hungry as they shake it, watching the viscous liquid swirl and brighten. They don't, though. Instead, they place it in the middle of the desk. They proceed to sit on their hands, and I gathered this a precautionary measure to prevent themselves from indulging. What is this? They clear their throats, unable to meet my concerned gaze. This is what I've been reduced to. Ezra gave this to you? They nod, and I reach for the vial. They watch it intently, their throat bobbing as they swallow thickly. The room flares to life as I pop the cork, and August shifts in their seat. It smells fragrant, almost citrusy. It's certainly not as unpleasant as I anticipated.
It is not harmful if used as intended. Ezra could never create such things. He is not interested in enabling me, but I may have pressured him. I may have taken advantage of it, hence the nature in which my magic has been manifesting lately. Just another thing to add to the long list of regrets I seem to have accrued lately.
I mean, it's beautiful. I look around the room, now understanding how such a display is possible. What does it do exactly? I can feel a crackle in the air, an obvious shift in tension.
My magic draws from the mind, and when using it often I tend to grow weary faster than most. It's a weakness I'm not proud of, and I cannot be viewed to be weak when in such a position in this agency.
I gesture towards the vial, and I lay it back on the desk. Therefore, this affords me the ability to replenish my mana, to put myself to use whenever required. Psionic abilities such as my own are rare, so I am required quite often. There are obviously side effects, though. Your health is more important than your notoriety, August. They seem taken aback by the statement, maybe even a little embarrassed. Yes, and I see that now.
I've been a little blinded by the desire to impress, but the harder I look, the more I realize that I might be pushing myself to the limit for a broken cause.
Oof, I blanch at that. Those words aren't coming from August's mouth. Those words coming from August's mouth seem unreal. It's a casually honest statement, painfully honest even, and certainly not something I could imagine the enforcer I met just a week ago daring to utter.
Too many questionable things have happened right under my nose, and I was too blinded by my determination to succeed to see.
Aya, Piper, the murders. We need to get back to the start, examining the root. The root being the agency? The enforcers? With a small nod, they lift their eyes to the ceiling, speaking their next words with great effort. Yes, the enforcers. Then why bring me here? That I cannot answer. I wish I could. We'll open with Aya. Tell me about Aya. They rest their elbows upon the desk, steepling their fingers. There's not much to tell, really. She transferred here only a few months ago. We'd barely become acquainted when she was arrested, though Piper took a liking to her. A small smile crosses their lips. They worked well together, and I finally got to catch up on the ridiculous amounts of paperwork I'd accrued during my time spent in the field with Piper. Why were you in the field?
Well, things have been a little busier than usual here in Lunar lately. Creature activity has been at an all-time high these past few years, and Piper and I made an unstoppable team.
I contemplate that for a moment, for any peak in activity is usually for a reason. It's been worse in the past few years? Not always as bad? They shake their head. Not always, but it always seems normal now. I make a mental note to remember this, probably later. So, her arrest. One day she was just gone, no explanation? It was reported that she went on an unsanctioned hunt. I wasn't aware, and neither was Piper. We never saw her again. I reach for the papers that sit upon the desk between us. Harry's signature is clear as day. You didn't question it? An uncomfortable shift, a squirm almost. I did not. You do not question Harry. He's given me no reason to. I watch them carefully, the furrow in their brow deepening as they quite clearly second-guess their own statements. Something isn't right here, and Aya's situation feels too convenient for me. Don't you agree? With a sharp inhale, they sit back in their chair. A little of their tension seems to melt away, but the sadness still lingers. I do. So, Piper, you mentioned that you didn't want Piper to be demoted, so what happened? Their gaze flickers to the side, staring out of the window at the snowy street. After Aya's arrest, Piper became unsettled. Rightfully so, now that I look back.
She wouldn't stop rambling about a theory she had about the agency. Corruption, slander, all nonsense to me at the time. She was caught trying to break into the dungeons and rifling through my files. Just like you were this evening.
I clear my throat, offering them an apologetic grin. I was too infuriated to think straight, and before I got a chance to diffuse the situation, Harry caught wind. I regret the way I dealt with it. Piper was a good friend before this mess began. I should have helped her. I let her down. Their gaze meets mine, and they somehow seem more concerned for me than they are for themselves. You and Piper, you were friends? Hard to believe now, I know. But yes, we were. Close enough for her to convince me to arm wrestle her. They absentmindedly rub their elbow as if they're nursing an old injury. Don't do that. Ever. The way they light up when they talk about such memories doesn't go unnoticed, and I feel a pang of sorrow for their lost friendship. They both seemed like they could do such company in their lives, and now I understand why they're known at being so prolific as a team. You should speak to her and clear the air. The look they throw me is less than convincing.
Piper is a proud person. She's been wronged by someone she trusted, and she does not trust freely. I wouldn't expect her to forgive me without much begging, but I shall try.
I truly valued our friendship, and I have been cruel to her in my mission to please Harry. That ends now. August pushes away from their desks, swiping the still glowing vial as they stand. They cradle it gently in their palm before it's shoved firmly in the drawer from where it came. What next? What can we do? I think you should speak to Piper. She may know more than me, especially after her snooping. I stand too, my touch lingering upon those discharge papers. I want to go into the dungeons. I want to see her. They avert their gaze, cheeks rosy, their frustration evident.
I cannot authorize that. Not when I know it would put your position in jeopardy.
They thoughtlessly slide their hand across the back of their chair, cutting me a sympathetic stare. I can't have a repeat of what happened to Piper, Gray. Trust me? I try my best to stop my own frustration showing. Please, August, I need you to trust me here. What if I can find a way to get down there undetected? A way neither of us will be implicated? Interest obviously piqued. They raise a dark brow at me. And how exactly do you propose you do that? With all due respect, Hunter and Wright, you don't know the dungeons here. They're right, but... A smile, and they narrow their eyes at the change in expression. What do you have up your sleeve? Well, I happen to know a few people who can certainly be of use to us. I'm not sure you're gonna like it, though. Go on. You may not approve, but we have a few allies that probably know the dungeons better than any hunter or enforcer ever could. The dramatic and sudden roll of their eyes tells me they know exactly who I'm talking about. You want to enlist a bunch of vampires to help us break into the enforcement dungeons? Not a bunch, just the one. Finn has lived in this town longer than literally anyone. August scoffs loudly. Lived. He's as dead as a doornail. So you're just gonna walk into the dungeons, Casimir in tow, and hope not to get caught? I smile at their obvious distaste for my plan. Ezra, Piper, even Alcar. They can all help too. Do I have your permission to proceed? A pregnant pause follows my questions, but eventually August meets my gaze once more. You have my permission. But please be cautious. I am no wiser than you here, and I cannot protect you if something goes wrong.
I came here to make something of myself. I was so desperate to move out of the shadows of my parents. I come from a family that held me to such high standards. Standards I could never dream of meeting, no matter how hard I tried.
The words grow terser as seconds pass, unraveling gradually.
I don't want this to be my legacy. I want to make the world a better place, not a scarier one.
I gather August has suffered through much frustration. Life has weathered them to the bone. They quickly gather themselves. I won't let you down. I don't doubt that, actually. I head back to my room at the Wolf to clear my head and try to figure out my hastily concocted plan a little more thoughtfully. I stay up pondering the fact that we still haven't been given the name of the latest victim, and I wonder if Harry is keeping it from me for a reason. After my conversation with August, everything feels wrong. A quick, sharp pain rises in my temples. I feel that familiar presence lurking. Despite that, it would appear that no voices would visit me tonight. Because apparently nothing is sacred in this town, I managed to coax Piper's address out of Edna with very little persuasion. I head across the street, unsurprised she lives so close to the tavern and as far away from headquarters as possible. Her house is small, but it seems to have much character, much like its owner. take a deep breath and I knock. She looks surprised to see me, but her expression quickly softens.
I wasn't expecting you, especially because I assumed you had no bloody idea where I live. Are you okay?
A timid smile crossed my lips. I definitely don't think this is a conversation to be had in the street. Can we talk? Oh, sorry. Of course, come in. Oh, her house is so cute. I love her little collection of daggers and all like the plants around there and her pillows. It's very cozy. Her house is warm and inviting. The walls adorned with an abundance of gorgeous weaponry and various plants and brightly colored pillows litter the room. Your home is beautiful. Thank you. I've been lucky, really. I know not all hunters catch a break like I have. Plus, real estate in this shithole is cheap. We share a laugh, and I can't help but feel a sense of urgency to discuss things with her. I decide now is not the time for pleasantries or stalling. Cutting straight to the chase is the only way. I have some news about Aya. Her eyes widen, flickering to the side, away from me. Aya?
Please don't say what I think you're going to.
I pulled the sash from inside my coat and presented it to her, but I'm quick to reassure. This was found in the woods, but that doesn't mean she could still be alive, Piper. This has clearly been out there for a while. She reaches out and runs her hand over the ruined fabric, her fingers shaking. With a deep inhale, she withdraws, turning to sit upon the arm of her sofa. Why are you here? She looks so sad, like she's only thinking the worst. I don't blame her, and I can't imagine how frustrated she might be with the hands she's been dealt with. I wanted you to know I spoke to August last night. They were quite honest with me about everything, really. Oh, they were,
I suppose they told you why I was demoted. I acted without rational thought. I was so angry.
I offered a smile, trying to catch her gaze. I may or may not have been caught doing exactly as you did. You didn't. I nod, feeling a little smug now the fear of being reprimanded by my enforcer has dissipated. I broke into Augustus Willingham's office and lived to tell the tale.
Fucking brilliant. You've got guts. I'll give you that.
I shrug, brushing it off. I'm grateful that the move has shifted to something that feels a little lighter. You know, August regrets how everything happened. They seem wistful. I think they miss your friendship. She frowns deeply, fiddling with the edge of her tunic.
They hurt me. I think it'll take me a while to get over that. It wasn't even about the punishment. It was that they didn't believe me. You work with someone for all that time, but when it came down to it, they thought I'd gone mad. Why would I make up such a thing? Everyone jokes about us and our instincts, but they don't understand. When we feel something, we really feel it, you know?
I nod, because I do know. Whatever lies within us that grants us our abilities is something we cannot shake or ignore. If we sense someone is pain or they're scared, we feel it in kind. If we love fully. If we can feel that something feels off, it usually is. They employ us to do what we do for a reason. I wish they have a better understanding of what or how we feel. She scoffed a quiet laugh, rolling her eyes and offering me a small smile. If only.
If August wishes to make amends, I welcome their apology, but it will take me a while to trust them again. I was humiliated and betrayed by one of my only friends. They've got some begging to do.
Now that I'd like to see. Shit, me too. I'll get you a front row seat if it ever happens, alright? Deal. Now, I have a proposition. Oh? Going into the dungeons. I want to go into the dungeons. She stares at me blank, expressionless.
You fucking what? Are you absolutely mad? Fancying a demotion too, are you? Well, let me tell you, it's not all it's cracked up to be.
I throw her a look and she smirks. You're serious, son? Well, Gray, I'm impressed. So come on then, what's this plan? I'm still putting the pieces together. You inspired me, though. Good to know some good comes out of my suffering, I suppose. Do you have any tips? Any kinks you encountered on your journey? The fact that I'd even get to the door would indicate I failed pretty miserably, wouldn't you say? There are wards, there are guards. It's pretty much impossible unless... Well, you know Ezra, don't you? That witch is more than a pretty face. Speak to him. See if you can convince him to help. She's right. I've seen him use wards in his shop, and from what I saw of his magic the other day. You're a genius. She shrugs as if that's the most obvious statement I could have made. Duh. When you're ready, you know I've got your back. Always. Upon entering the shop, I find chaos. I spot Ezra frantically gesturing at Omen, demon's tail tightly coiled. I'm wary of approaching him after our little incident yesterday, instead choosing to observe from afar. I manage to catch Ezra's eyes, and he throws me a sympathetic look. He's stressed, his hands are full of bandages and potions. He mutters something quick and sharp under his breath to Omen, who then turns and stares at me with wide, starry eyes as the witch disappears through the purple curtain. If I ask what's going on, will you give me an answer? The question seems to catch him by surprise. Then he looks away, his lips pursed. He doesn't seem to have forgotten his outburst with me yesterday or his abrupt departure. Good. It isn't my intention to trip up the reminder, but just as well that he remembers. Did you bring someone in who was hurt? Brown eyes snap to me almost in an instant, and Omens moves as though to step between me and the entrance to Ezra's back room, and catches himself in the middle and forcibly drops his arms to the side. He opens his mouth, stammers without speaking, then his shoulders drop in defeat. A little spark that might have caught on the bandage rolls in his hand, peters out.
Yes, but maybe you shouldn't see her right now. I mean...
He licks his lips, a flick of his black tongue visible. Seems so eerily out of place on a face so painfully human in its distress.
At least let Ezra see to her first. He needs some space when he works his magic.
Okay. Sure, that's alright. Are you hurt? Are you okay? Are you hurt? Owen blinks at me for a moment, uncomprehending. Had the thought that he might be the one who is hurt not crossed his mind at all? Evidently not. His mouth goes round and he blushes, turning away, shaking his head. But then he smiles and holds out the medical supplies closer. I'm fine. It's her I'm worried about. Of course, the guest. I glance at the door leading to the back, and after a moment of concentration, I can pick up on it, too. A hint of power, one not unlike Omen's own. Another demon. This town is becoming a little too crowded, isn't it? I decide to keep my faith in Omen for now, however, and smile at him reassuringly as I can. I'm sure she'll be alright. Ezra's tending to her, after all. At that reminder, Omen visibly relaxes.
Yeah, you're right, of course. He's very good at this. He took care of me when I came here.
His words peter out. Omen looks down at his arms, then at the wall, then at me pensively. His tail lashes back and forth. His body tense, and for one dangerous moment, I wonder what he'll do. But my hand stays off my weapon this time, and his burgeoning power stays contained within that slim, fleshy guise. We look at each other until I feel we come to a silent understanding. Omen sighs, his shoulders falling.
Hunter, I owe you an explanation, I think. I owe you the truth.
He fidgets, looking anywhere but me, before steeling himself and meeting my eyes. I relax my stance as much as I can, encouraging. No use pushing when Omen seems willing to speak. But I'm glad to hear I finally might be getting some answers. Tell me. He smiles, eyes soft, appreciative. Then he takes another deep breath and begins.
2 years ago, I came to Lunaris. That is, I came to stay in Lunaris after a disagreement with my sire, my father.
His eyes flicker around the room almost nervously, and I find myself straining to detect any eavesdropping presence. But there is none. Omen seems to find the same thing because his shoulders droop again.
You know what I am. I suppose you've already guessed.
He sighs.
Your people call him Lucifer, I think. The fallen divine. The Lord of Hells.
It takes me a moment to process what he said. Demon lore is plentiful and easily accessible when you're a hunter. Even in our early years at the Academy, we pored over detailed logs of their fiendish hierarchies, favorite vices to exploit, patterns of their appearances. I would damn well hope I know who the Lord of Hells is. Oh, that's very nice. Omen's brown eyes widen, his jaw going slack in surprise. The glamour truly is something. I'm starting to wonder if he learned it from the witch behind the curtains. It is? He coughs.
That was sarcasm, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was not sarcasm.
No, it was not. Something else also hits me. Our sire? Omen bites his lip and looks away. He nods quickly, eyes flickering to the door leading into the shop. Well then, does your father know that you're here in the mortal realm? Can he find you? A terrible thought crosses my mind. The burned bodies, the hunters targeted. No! The vehemence of his denial is startling. I quickly hold up my hands for peace, but Omen isn't paying attention. He's shaking his head vigorously, trembling.
No, that can't be him. Him or any of his minions. I would have known. I would have stopped them.
His brown eyes are glowing with fire as he stares at me pleadingly. Literal shimmering flames. I can feel the fire in his core standing here, far enough away, and now I know where it comes from. The familiarity makes sense. That's one hell of a secret to hold on to, literally. And who is that in the back then? One more colossal fact to add to the messy little mountain of information I have been gathering since stepping foot in this mad town. What else is new by now? I believe you, Omen. Omen's shoulders droop in relief, and I feel something tense inside me unclench as well. And he's not in badly. Will not. Besides, this case would have closed far faster if it was just run-of-the-mill demons messing around. Right. Omen closes his eyes and says something too quiet for me to hear. Then he breathes in, breathes out, and slowly makes his way to the counter. He sets all of the items in his arms down, there, with such deliberateness I know he's doing so to calm his nerves. Something sneaks through still. I see a flicker of flame about his hair and intensity to his aura. But only briefly. The pressure fades as Omen raises his head. He doesn't look at me as he speaks.
I think I'll just head outside for some fresh air.
Are you sure? Omen smiles at me over his shoulder, the curve of his mouth tense.
I think it's for the best. I don't want her to see me like this. Rattled and angry. She's my sister. She doesn't deserve it.
He trails off, staring into the distance for a moment. Then he shakes his head and makes for the door, only adding one last thing before he steps outside.
Will you go and say hello to her? I'm sure Elaine will find you quite lovely.
Yeah, of course. The second I lay my eyes on her, it's more than obvious that she is truly related to Owen. Maybe even his twin, unless the glamour is simply fooling me. She's so pretty. I love her little dress. Ezra has a poultice carefully pressed into her dainty hand, a pile of gauze covered in a thick black ichor discarded upon the counter by his side. She blinks at me once, twice, her eyes are big and brown and every bit as earnest as Omen's. Hello. Her voice is disturbingly sweet, almost musical even. I smile at her politely, looking to Ezra for a little guidance. Elaine, this is Gray. Gray, this is Elaine, Omen's twin sister. Ah, yes. I assume Ezra was just as unaware of her existence as I am, but he's polite enough to stay calm and focused, as friendly and as hospitable as ever. It's nice to meet you, Elaine. Oh, you too. Elaine narrows his eyes at me for a brief moment, shaking her head. She looks terrified. She addresses Ezra, but she sternly keeps her eyes on me, on my weapon. Where's Armeros? I look at Ezra, my confusion quite evident. Armeros? Ah, yes, that... Her face lights up when I say his name, but I gather she doesn't fully understand my trepidation. Ezra turns to address the demon, patting her hand gently. He's just outside, and you're all healed up, but I do think you should go and see your brother now. Okay. Yes, I should. Ezra releases her, throwing me a sorry look over his shoulder as he turns to quickly dispose of the mess of medical supplies. It was lovely to meet you, Gray. Her demeanor is delightful, and I'm slowly processing exactly what her brother has told me. Yes, you too. She glanced at me briefly before shyly averting her gaze, turning to meekly part the curtains that lead into the shop. The second she's gone, a tall, pale figure bursts through the back door. He looks shocked to see me, but quickly recovers. Is she healed? She's fine, and she's with her brother. I suggest you give him space for the time being. As his words are final and somewhat stern, and Armeros quickly wilts under his vibrant green gaze, his eyes still lightly glowing from whatever magic he's just performed. I don't really know how to back all of this. What happened to her, and why are you so desperate to be by her side? He stares longingly at the curtain, Elaine's voice quiet on the other side. Then, I remember the note at the stoop of the Ibex, the little heart. It says Hola. Ah, well. I'm courting her, you see. We're together. She was attacked last night by it. The one that's beginning to your kind, I think. Ezra and I share a look, doing little to hide our shock. It, as in the creature? Armeros closes his eyes, sighing heavily. Then he nods. Yes.
If you need to tell us something, we can help. Elaine didn't need to get hurt, so if you know where this thing is...
He looks at me, then back to Ezra, his throat bobbing as he swallows thickly. He's quite clearly battling with the idea of divulging any more information. We'll encourage him. Armeros, it's okay. You can trust us. We just want to help.
They're right. No one will know what you tell us. We just want people to be safe.
He sighs again, his shoulders sinking in defeat. I just want her to be safe. We can see you care for her a great deal, and we want that too. His ice blue eyes quickly flicker between each of us, and it's the most animated I've seen him. Why are you being nice to me? My sister and I. He trails off, almost looking right through me. If you have information about the creature, we need to know. People are dying, so I find it hard to hold your beliefs against you if you can offer assistance. Very well. Aurora has been sneaking out at night as of late. That's not exactly uncommon for her, but I believe she's doing more than satisfying her baser urges. Ezra looks away, covering a quiet cough with his hands. We don't have time to unpack all of that, but I'll store it for later. What do you suspect? I suspect nothing. I know that she's feeding it, or something at least. Feeding it? He seems unfazed, startlingly so. She may seem cruel and cold, but Aurora has a good heart. She cares for the creature and makes sure that they're safe. Can I see Elaine now? Can you maybe elaborate on a little on that first? He shrugs, sighing again. It is what it is. I don't dictate to her what she can and cannot do. I find myself losing interest in her preachings. I just want to keep Elaine safe now. Ideally, we'd leave this wretched place for good, but her and Omen have just reunited. Would she be so quick to leave him? Maybe not. I think it's best for both of you to stay here and lie low. I'm not sure why the creature attacked her. It hasn't attacked anything inhuman so far. He looks at me, fixes his gaze, and with perfect confidence. How do you know? A chill rolls along my spine, but I shake it off. You're right. I don't. I'd really like to leave now. You can leave, but I need you to promise me something. He narrows his gaze. Go on. Watch Aurora, and the second you see her do anything out of the ordinary, you find me. I will ensure Elaine is safe, I swear to you, but your cooperation is essential. I see Ezra shifting nervously out of the corner of my eyes, but I stand my ground. Our mouse continues to assess me. Fine, I'll seek you out, and I will watch my sister. Farewell, Hunter. Witch.
Well, that was interesting.
I anticipated some commotion from behind the curtain, but I hear nothing but silence. Interesting's putting it lightly. How are you, anyway? I have a quiet laugh because that question feels far too casual for the amount of information I've digested in the last forever. Yeah, there's just hit after hit after hit, just keeps coming. Tired and confused, the usual. I suppose I haven't done much to help with that, have I?
I wanted to apologize for not being totally honest with you and for making your life a little harder than necessary.
Okay.
You already have so much on your plate.
He seems genuine, and aside from his odd behavior yesterday, I have no reason not to trust Ezra. I spoke to August last night and Piper this morning. They know about the sash. Fear flashed across his features, but I quickly reassure him. It's fine, Ezra. They're on our side. They want to help. Even Gus? Yes, even August. Are you sure you're not magic? Because that seems like an impossible task. I shake my head profusely. No magic here. His smile grows, and the way he seems to relax exponentially. It's nice to see. Then let's talk. He takes a deep breath.
The reason I was so hesitant to discuss Aya, or the Enforcers for that matter, is because I used to work for them.
You were an enforcer?
Hell no. I went in and I assisted in the infirmary or morgue whenever they needed an extra pair of hands. Healers, good healers, are few and far between around here. It's what I always wanted to do, to apply my skills where most needed. Helping those who dedicate their lives to ensuring our safety was an honor. The murders began and I examined the first body. You can even call it that in the state that it was in.
I listened intently, taking all of this in. A little perplexed, a little caught off guard.
Something shifted within the headquarters after that. They started treating me differently, called me in less. And then, when I was there, they kept me clear of any hunters. It became quite clear they didn't want me there any longer. Information was being kept from me, important notes about the victims I was supposed to be examining. The Aya incident happened. Then another dead hunter turned up, and they revoked my access.
They took away all of my notes. Notes? He nods, glancing over at the kitchen counter. I may have had Piper retrieve them for me. If you'd like to take them, there's not much, but you're welcome to them. Yeah, that's helpful. Yes, I'll take them. He opens one of the kitchen drawers, pulling out a pile of parchment. Then he discards what looked like a fake wooden bottom. The notebook is nestled safely beneath it. Here. I tuck it away inside my jacket for later. So, achievement unlocked. I took the notes. So why were you so afraid to tell me this? You did nothing wrong, you were just helping people. He offers me a sorry gaze, his brow furrowed, fingers curled into fists at his side.
They don't like people talking about it, about the deaths. Many of us have our suspicions now, and they know. I think they'd do anything to keep what's happening quiet.
Like, not telling me who the latest victim is? Exactly. I wasn't even sure I could trust Gus. I wanted to so badly that I pushed my apprehension aside. You were right to trust them. They're on our side. They're scared too. Oh, Gus, I just want all of this to be over. What are we going to do? I smile and Ezra's expression lights up. You have a plan? I have a plan. I can't do it without you. I need your help. I'm going to need your help, along with a few of the others. Anything you need, I'm your guy. Well, magic-wise, anyway. He's strong. He can... Listen, I saw artwork of him with the sword for September. He can kick it. We share a laugh, and Ezra definitely seems more relaxed now, like a weight has been lifted off his shoulders. Piper and I are going into the dungeon to see if we can locate Aya. If we can talk to her, I think we might have a start. Everything leads back to when she was arrested, as far as I can tell. How on earth are you going to get down there without being caught? That's where you come in. It may involve you and August working together. Does Gus know about this little plan of yours? I grimace, waving my hand in a so-so gesture. Partially?
You're lucky I trust you. And I'm here for you. Just tell me when and where.
Thank you, Ezra. Now, how can I find Finn? Why, a secret passageway, of course. You're in the right place. He bends down, kicking aside a colorful rug to reveal that hidden hatch. It creaks loudly when he opens it, a gust of cold, stale wind rises from the depths.
Walk for about 10 minutes, and then when you see candlelight, it's the third door on the left. Don't be alarmed by any vampires you stumble across. They're all friendly.
I nod, taking a deep breath. I lower myself into the hatch, gazing up at him with a smile. See you around. The incessant drip, drip, drip of water guides me forward through the darkness. The stench of damp and decay fills my nostrils as I sink deeper into the corridors of the catacombs. The pitch-black path is long and winding, and the only sound I can hear is the tap of my boots on the wet stone. Eventually, I see candlelight flickering ahead, and it would appear I've finally found life. Well, kind of. I remember to look for the third door on the left, just as Ezra had instructed, but as I approach, I find it wide open. I peek inside, and the stark contrast between the literal tome outside and what I find it is most definitely Finn's quarters is astounding. It's remarkably cozy for a dead man. Those little sketches here, little UFO. It's very, very cute. See his little... He's seeing aliens and eyes. I love it. This little skull. Before I get a chance to take in the view, a cool breeze brushes past me, ruffling my hair and sending my goosebumps prickling across my skin. Hi! Oh, I love her design so much. Like, everything about her, so goth, so gorgeous. Adore her. Absolutely adore her. A small, darkly clad girl appears before me in a flash, her eyes the brightest crimson as they bore into me. She stands with her head tilted, a toothy grin crossing her lips. Are you lost, human? She stares me down, wide-eyed and clearly trying to intimidate me, but she seems playful. I'm here to see Finn. She relaxes at the sound of his name, and her striking gaze sweeps over me like a caress. She shrugs, pursing her lips. So you're the one he won't shut up about, huh? Well, you do smell good, I guess. Smell good? Is Finn here? She licks a fang, and I notice how similar some of her more human quirks are to his. She's far less poised than him, and I almost feel like that may be on purpose. I'm in Finn's territory here, neutral territory, so I quell the desire to be defensive, even though her eyes are the color of a creature who drinks human blood. He's somewhere, here, around, doing stuff. Helpful. Her smile winds, and she turns to poke at the crystal decanter of whiskey that sits nestled in the corner of one of his many bookshelves. Are you part of the clan? Quick nod, almost too quick to catch. I am. She pours the rich amber liquid into a glass, swirls, sniffs it with a dramatic grimace, and sets it aside untouched. Her nose still crinkled and barely disguised disgust when she looks at me again. I wish that thing you were looking for would stop killing hunters, you know, because that means that more of your type will always come. Then, more enforcers, which is the last thing we need in this shitty town. I hear footsteps, loud ones that echo off the stonework in the hallway. Hi. Great. I suspect he knew I was here, but his shock is charming nonetheless. He looks at the girl, who throws him a decidedly wicked, wolfish grin, the picture of innocence.
Raven, are you being nice?
The girl, Raven, shrugs, sidling up to him and resting her head on his shoulder. She rolls her eyes hard enough that I'm surprised they don't fall back into her skull. Yes, Dad. Finn's face drops, his eyes narrow. I get the impression that if he could blush, his cheeks would be the pretty shade of pink. I stifle a laugh, and with obvious delight, Raven notices. Raven. She laughs to sound loud and obnoxious, but somehow still charming. He shoves him playfully, and Finn remains stern. Are you going to introduce me to your friends? The suggestive wrinkle of her brows doesn't go unnoticed, and Finn sighs heavily, offering me an apologetic smile. Gray, this is Raven. I'm his kid. There's a low, exasperated rumble of warning in Finn's throat, and I find myself enjoying the way he bristles in her presence. Finn throws her a death glare, and she proceeds to look guilty, but just a little. He raises a single dark brow at her, and after a quiet scoff, he enthusiastically steps forward and offers me her hands. It's really nice to meet you, Gray. You being in town has given Grumpy Pants over here something to do other than mope, at least.
I do not mope.
I think you mope a lot. How defensive you got there. Raven rolls her eyes, and I finally take her hand. Her grip is firm, and I wonder if she might be trying to unnerve me with her startling eyes widen exponentially. Hurt him, and I'll eat you. Got it? I open my mouth to respond, but before I get a chance, she's laughing again. Finn looks mortified, and he carefully pries her hand from mine and ushers her towards the door. It's time for you to go, I think. Raven pouts, raising both of her hands in defense. I was joking, obviously. I like them already. She offers me a little wave and raises to her tiptoes to press a kiss to Finn's cheek. He looks at her with unabashed fondness, a small smile creeping onto his lips. Go, say hello to Lux for me, and be good. He runs his hands over her shorn scalp, and she swats him playfully, scoffing much like a teenager would at an embarrassing parent. I'll do more than say hello. Bye, Gray. Go. We met Raven, and she's been unlocked. He gives another disapproving rumble, and Finn almost looks like he wants to chase her to administer another pep talk, but he stops himself. And with that, she's gone, the door slamming loudly and shaking in its frame. Finn groans, running an iron hand over his face as he walks to grab the whiskey Raven had poured him. Oh. She's interesting. He sips his drink.
She's a pain in the ass is what she is. But I suppose she's my pain in the ass. I sired her, so she's my responsibility. She jokes about me being her father, but I suppose I am, in a way.
Takes a small I can speak. He takes a small sip of whiskey, savoring the taste for a moment before he speaks. Though, I prefer brother. Father just makes me sound so old. Listen, Finn, I got something to tell you. You're like 600 years old. You're lucky she's not calling you granddad. His laugh is charming. Yes, old. She tends to look after me with much more than I look after her. She's a good kid. I'd be lost without her. I nod, observing him quietly as he sets down his glass. Sire bonds are powerful, and it's interesting to observe such a casual, healthy dynamic. Did you choose to turn her? He frowns, shaking his head. Well, no. Not exactly.
It's complicated, but I made a choice that I'll have to live with forever. Literally. I'd seen too many die at the hand of my sire. Something about her struck me. He planned to leave her for dead, but I couldn't let that happen.
He smiles, and it's painfully earnest.
We're kindred spirits, I guess. As much as I have regret for cursing her with immortality, she's the closest thing I have to a family. Now, what brings you to my neck of the underworld?
Leans back against his desk. I need your help. I have a plan, and I think I might need your help to execute it. He tilts his head, curiosity obviously piqued. Plan, I do love those. Tell me, what can I do? Don't you want to know the finer details first? He shrugs, running his tongue over his bottom lip. Makes no difference to me. I trust you implicitly. If it means I can help you in any way, I am all ears. Just tell me where you need me. Piper and I are going to attempt to break into the dungeon beneath HQ. His pointy ears flicker, almost flattening against his head before they put themselves to rights. He can't seem to mask his surprise nor his apparent interest. Dungeons, Also, there's a little fang poking out in the sprite. It's very cute. He whistles, scuffing his boot against the stone floor. I can help you, but I may have a favor of my own to ask if you're bold enough to venture down there. I narrow my eyes at him, contemplating if I want to entangle myself with yet another web. What is it? He pushes away from the desk, standing tall.
An important member of my clan has gone missing, and I'm positive that they have him. As I'm sure you know, any trust for the enforcers is wavering. I want my friend back. He's done nothing to warrant being thrown in a dungeon.
His hands ball into fists at his side, his prosthetic flaring brightly before it fades into its usual dormant, dull glow. How do you know they have him? I don't. They have an excellent defense system that prevents any of us from detecting him, no matter how close we get. He would not just abandon us. He's either detained or dead, and if it's the latter, I just want to know. You're sure he wouldn't just leave? Your clan isn't like others. Maybe he wanted to change? He looks frustrated. He runs his fingers through his hair, leaving a message.
Fierro wouldn't just leave. I know he wouldn't. I trust him more than anyone else in my clan, even Raven. We both suffered at the hands of Levi for centuries. We were healing from that together. He was the only friend I had when I was with Levi, and he saved me more than once. I owe him this. If he's ash and bone in a forest somewhere, then so be it. But if he's okay, then I must save him. The only family creatures like me have are the ones that you find, so I intend to keep them safe as long as I can.
Well, lots about Pharaoh. Why do you think they would take Pharaoh specifically, if you're so sure he's innocent? He shrugs, clearly confident in his theory. Because he's valuable. He's an empath, a powerful one. If he saw something he wasn't supposed to, or even if they managed to just overpower him and get him alone. I rarely let my clan members patrol by themselves, regardless of their supposedly stable relationship with the enforcers of this town. But I was stupid, and Pharaoh is a good sweet talker. He sends someone in distress in the woods, so I allowed it. Therefore, if anything has happened to him, it's my fault. Finn prides himself on always being the opposite of his sire, and I can see that this is eating away at him. You can't place the blame on yourself. You didn't know. Plus, if he's as valuable as he say he is, his eyes light up when they meet mine, his fingers twitching upon the surface of the desk. And they could be using him, so he's still alive. A smile in return, tilting my head this way and that. Well, ish. As alive as vampires can be. He laughs, and I can't help but join him. So, you'll check for me? I nod. I will. That's what Levi. The information on Finn's sire is sparse outside the fact that he was notorious and cruel, and I wonder how such a seemingly kind man could have followed him for that long. Call it morbid curiosity. Do you mind talking about him? About Levi? Finn grimaces, folding his arms across his broad chest. His posture loses his usual confidence. I suppose. I take a seat upon his bed as he pulls out his desk chair. The first thing I can think to ask him is loaded, but I need to understand. Why did you stay for him for so long? He looks at me wide-eyed, and for a beat. He looks at me wide-eyed for a beat before he manages to formulate a response.
I don't know if I can answer that. I still truly do not know. He was good at making sure you had nothing left to go home to. So he was all that I had. I'm not the kind of man who does well with loneliness.
A wry smile crosses his lips, but Finn looks impossibly sad. What did he take from you? He swallows thickly, casting his gaze aside.
He took my fiancé, killed him right in front of me before he took my own life. I was an orphan, and I didn't exactly have many friends. Gabriel was truly all I had. He destroyed our home, all of our memories, even took my name from me. He took it all, and he did everything to make sure that I needed him. I followed him like a lost puppy for centuries.
Did you ever try to escape? When he found others? He nods.
Many times. I had a few periods of freedom, but he always found me. He tended to collect vampires with abilities like Fiero and myself. Maybe to make up for the fact that, aside from his advanced age, he was truly unremarkable.
Ha! And now he's dead and you're free. You seem to be managing well for someone who endured all that. He sighs, rubbing the back of his neck with his iron hands.
I'm trying to shape myself into the man I always wanted to be. Before the whole being undead thing. I try not to dwell on things that happened to me. I was bitter for long enough, but I cannot change any of it. All I can do is be the opposite of what he wanted me to be.
I smile as I observe him. I register how comfortable I feel in this home. The thought of stepping into a den of a clan before all of this would have set me on edge, but now... You're doing a great job, Finn. His mouth curls into an earnest grin. Thank you, Gray. I give you permission to kick my ass if I ever dare step out of line. Duly noted. So, what is it you'd like me to do exactly? Well, no one knows this town quite as well as you. I was hoping you'd have some secret little passageway tucked away for me to use. There are wards and other little nasty tricks in place to stop people like you, like us, getting in. I'll worry about that. Now, about that passageway? His grin is wicked, and I think I have my answer. I'm your guy. Just say when, and I'll be there. If you need anything else, just come running. I've been fit for a while, and now I only need to find one more friend. I saved the most stubborn to last. Alker is waiting for me when I return to the wolf. It doesn't surprise me anymore when I catch his eye across the tavern where he's been nursing a mug of ale, clearly pouting. That pout disappears when he sees me. When he sees me, surely counts for something, though the way his lips thin instantly makes me think perhaps not. He gets up, movement slow and deliberate, and I remain by the door for a moment, wondering if, hilariously, he's somehow trying not to scare me.
Took you long enough. Was wondering if the bad shit got to you.
Do you need something? Yes, actually. Alker rubs the back of his neck. It's multiple. Alker rubs the back of his neck and gives me a critical once-over, frown deepening. Then he glances behind his shoulders at the sparsely populated tavern. The 3 or 4 people lounging about seem deeply engaged with their own conversation, but I nod understanding. My room? Alker barks a short, scornful laugh.
So your superior can come knocking on the door and catch us? Not a chance.
People do that a lot in this town. No one has any respect for privacy. They just barge right in. Are you saying I'm trying to ambush you? He frowns at me, his tail flicking and then going still. His voice is low and steady when he answers. No, I'm not saying that, but I'm not keen on taking chances right now. Tell me you agree. Much as I loathe to abandon the promise of a horizontal, not a bare rock surface to lie down on, close my eyes and try to process the day, he's right. And if Alcar had any information, any more at all, I want to hear it. I need to hear it. Alright then. Where? The woods. The deep, dark woods where I stumbled across a nasty youngling no more than a day ago? Alcar rolls
Would
his
you
eyes.
prefer the graveyard where those damn Woodridge twins can probably hear every word we say? Not all of the woods are dangerous. I would know. I live there. Now, I ask that you trust me.
I incline my head in understanding and step aside. Of course we trust him, inviting him to take his leave through the door first. Alcar doesn't move immediately. He stays where he is, his arms crossed, and he regards me with a strange expression. It's not unreadable, but almost as though he doesn't quite know what expression he should be making. Is something the matter? You're one trusting motherfucker, aren't you? I scowl at him. You and your friends in this lovely town aren't giving me a lot of choices. I expect another eye roll, a scoff, a dismissive wave. Instead, Alcar inclines his head, and there's something like guilt in his grimace. Let's go. Lunaris is a cold and lonely shell of its daylight form tonight, and I have to almost run to keep up with how quickly, though sure-footedly, Alcar moves through the back alleys. The chill settles into my bones, and unbidden, I wish I wasn't here. I wish I wasn't a half-werewolf into the dark unknown towards more mystery. Omen's confession is still ringing in my ears, as do many others' things. Did you know that Omen is... Alcar shakes his head, his wolf ears flattening. Not here. Another turn, and we step beyond the town's boundaries. Trees loom above us, moonlight flooding through the bare branches that afford us some light. Alcor leads me in a little further away until the roofs of the houses are barely visible, then turns to me.
A little while ago, I got into a fight with one of your hunters.
He jerks his chin towards the town.
Well, not one of yours exactly, I suppose, since you just got here and all, but one of theirs. Some bloke. Don't even remember his face all that well.
Alcor pauses for a moment, rubbing at his chin almost nervously, his eyes narrowed, but then he shakes himself out of it and continues.
It was during a full moon. I had an argument with my sister. Didn't go well.
He grimaces at the memory.
And when I transform, especially if I'm upset, my control isn't as good as it could be. But I know I didn't kill him. Would have damn well remembered that. If you ripped a man apart with your own claws and teeth. But when I came to, he knocked me out, I guess. You hunters and your annoying little gadgets. Your enforcer friends were already swarming over us like hornets. But there was no blood. Not mine, not his.
That doesn't mean you didn't hurt him. Alcor gives me a look.
Okay, smartass. The point is that he vanished. Poof. The enforcers, dragged me off to their fun little dungeon and kept me there for fuck knows how long. A week, I think. Maybe more. And then they just poked and prodded me a bit. Then they let me go. Felt like they wanted to do more. Like they had plans for me. But maybe it was too dangerous to just snuff me, I guess. I know too many people. Ezra, Finn. But here's a question for you. What do you do when a creature hurts a hunter so bad he apparently isn't walking around anymore?
I press my lips together. Nothing pleasant, I know that much. Assuming the creature in question was allowed to escape with their life at all. But sometimes they are let go. Marks that are too delicately tied to the order of things be freely snuffed, as Alcor so elegantly put it. But surely if he wounded a hunter so terribly, he still would be in the dungeons. Perhaps Finn or Ezra parlayed for your release. Alcor shaking his head.
They didn't. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you hunters don't get retirement leave till you can't walk on two legs anymore. And even then...
Well, there's always prosthetics. Alcor barks a sharp, bitter laugh and he shakes his head, but neither he and I find humor in it. I know. He's quiet for a moment, running a hand through his hair, messing with his clothes, fidgeting, nervous. I step back a pace to let him collect himself. No use pushing him for anything now, not when he's already been so open with telling me everything he knows. I didn't kill that hunter. I didn't. I wouldn't forget something like that, and I... Enough to never do it by accident. Never. Alcor's frown is deep, but his words are quietly fierce as they are pleading. I do believe you. I do believe you. Okay, then what happened? What happened to the hunter? Do you not know who he is at all? Alcor scowls at me, though his tail swishes back and forth in chagrin.
There's enough of you lot running around this place, and I don't keep an eye on everybody, okay? Especially not that one, I guess. Since I don't even remember his scent that well. Must have been forgettable.
A small shiver goes down my spine. A hunter who isn't well remembered or well known vanishing so thoroughly? It won't be the first time. It won't be the last. My rank weighs like a burden on my soul. Hunters wield power after all, and with power comes politics. You make it far by being good at what you do and keeping your head down to one degree or another, or you find a clandestine way to make your queries, or you fuck up and you disappear. But what politics would this forgettable man have served? Lunaris doesn't suffer from intricate power balances. The Lieutenant General reigns supreme, and that's it. Does Lieutenant General Addington know of this? Yeah, I think he was the one campaigning for my release, so I owe him one, I guess. Of course. Addington, most of all, wouldn't have wanted to destroy the peace with local creatures. Until he has a surefire way of removing them with impunity anyway. Anyhow, I suppose. I have another question. Are you aware that Omen comes from hell? Alker frowns at me, then squints, then snorts. Of course. Where else would he be coming from? The journal store? I hope he doesn't hear the sound of my teeth gnashing as loudly as I hear it, but with the way his ears suddenly stand up and cackle, I know he's seen something. I meant, did you know he's the son of the literal devil? You were the one who didn't ask. You weren't giving me a chance to, as I recall.
And why exactly should I have told you? Oh, by the way, we've got a demon prince in town. He's easily spooked, but don't you worry about that because he's harmless. Like that would fly.
I mean, that could have worked. I can roll with that. He pauses for a moment to consider his own words, then shrugs. That was his secret to tell, and he didn't have anything to do with the mess that's been cropping up around here, including that fact. Besides, Ezra was the one who chose to offer him a place to stay. Same as he offered to help me, help Finn, help anyone who so much as looked like they needed it. Omen came to his door asking for aid. Why would he be any different than the rest of us? Than you, who we took in that night too. I can think of a few ways a hunter might be different from all of those things, but I understand the spirit of it. Omen has good, loyal friends in this town. I understand. Alker inclines his head in acknowledgement, his eyes sharp. It's more force than I've ever seen from him. Good. Then he chuckles and leans away, signifying that the conversation is at an end. See you tomorrow? Where are you going off to so soon?
Back into my hovel before the big, handsome vampire comes to scold me about staying out in the cold. What else?
And excuse my nosiness, but you look like you've seen some hell yourself, not just the prince of hell. I frown. Am I that obviously rattled? But now that it's been said, I do feel the building headache behind my eyes. Not from the ghost of James alone, but from, well, everything. Alker's staring at me again, tilting his head this way and that, and making a show out of squinting at me. Yeah, definitely looks floored. Fit for bed. Well, don't stray too far. I may need you tomorrow. I have a plan.
A plan, Well, don't worry too much. I'll be a stone's throw away, whether you like it or not.
When you need me, you need me. Until then, later. He disappears in the tree line, as sure-footed as ever, and once again, I'm left alone in this damn forest. I begin to make my way back to the wolf. Uh-oh. It's never good when the music starts up like that. My mind reeling again, as it always seems to be these days. Though, I feel hopeful. My plan seems plausible. The little team of misfit helpers I've managed to assemble more than capable of carrying it alongside me. I think. I smile to myself, feeling a little lighter. Then, a rustle. Something moving in the tree line a little too close to the edge of town for my liking. No, we're going. I step forward, my footsteps quiet and assured as I advance back towards a thicker forest. Another rustle, closer this time. Then it lumbers into view. It's hunched over and misshapen with long, gaggly limbs that look out of place on its relatively normal-sized body. A single twisted horn grows out of his head, and I spot 3 eyes. The third seems to be new and underdeveloped, and emits crudely above the existing left socket. It's covered in patches of scraggly fur and scales, and in some places its skin looks entirely burned off. An amalgamation of mismatched parts and pieces that looks like they don't belong. A cloudy gaze meets mine, and merely looking at it gives me a headache. There's this weak, demonic aura that makes my body beg to look away. Then something hits me. Something that makes me hesitate to draw my weapon. I cannot place this face of complacency of ease, and nor can I fight it. Is this how my comrades were killed so easily? Does it have some kind of power over us that makes us freeze, become immobile? Or is it the dull ache of familiarity that settles in my gut that makes me pause? The feeling that I shouldn't harm it, that it deserves empathy, mercy. It opens its crooked jaw, melded sinew and molten skin stretching and splitting to reveal a set of violently jagged teeth. My body screams at me to fight. My feet are firmly planted and stuck to the forest floor. My fingers don't move. My weapon is still frustratingly safe in its holster. It takes a purposeful step towards me. With a low, rattling groan, its teeth bared. My heart races as I stare at its unfocused eyes, all 3 of them blinking out of sequence. There's a loud ringing in my ears, and I've never felt anything like this before. My instincts are screaming, pulsing, dying for me to do something. Anything, and yet all I can apparently do is stare down my bitter end. Then something washes over me, and in a split second I gain perfect blinding clarity. Run. James. The creature takes another step and howls a broken, blood-curdling screech. Run. I listen. Okay, this is where you would be able to pick your romance route through there if you've flirted with there, and you can choose. You eventually will unlock the poly options for Ezra and Finn and Alpha and Omen by choosing one of them, and then I believe sometime in Chapter 5 you are given the option to join in with a poly romance there. But yes, for now, we shall be going to the tavern, no Orleans. As though my body already knows where it needs to go, where I want to go, my feet carry me towards the wolf. I don't look back, but I do hear the rustle of trees and the creature's maddening aura fading. It's heading back into the woods. The town is safe, for now. I can't seem to still my breathing, the frantic pitter-patter of my heart deafening and blood rushing in my ears. I pass a few townsfolk as I pound the icy cobblestones, all of them blissfully ignorant of the horrors that lurk so closely to their little town. The lantern that hangs above the door of the tavern calls to me, and I press my palms on the battered wooden door and push. What feels like 100 pairs of eyes settle upon me as I am huffing and puffing, forcing a smile so they aren't alarmed. I pass Edna on my way to the stairs, and for once she looks something other than bored. You alright there? You look like you just saw a ghost. I laugh, maybe a little too maniacally. No ghost, not tonight anyway. Maybe. Edna frowns, scoffing as she grabs a wet cloth from behind the bar, roughly wiping the surface. Bloody hunters. I collapse on my bed and stare at the ceiling, or at least what I can see of it in the darkness. I think about James, about the others who died. Is that what happened to them too? Were they frozen? Stuck to where they stood to face down a death they couldn't even try to prevent? Saved me somehow, and for that, I'm forever grateful. Thank you. Everything's gonna be okay. Right, and that is where we're gonna leave off today. As that's kind of the end of Chapter 4, and covering the Lunar Festival, Chapter 3 and Chapter 4, going a little bit longer this time around, just because I wanted to kind of keep it even there. And yes, thank you if you joined me along the way or you're watching this after the fact. I had a lot of fun playing through. I'm very excited to continue the story, and especially some of the stuff that I'm not as familiar with, as it's probably been maybe like 2 years since I've played this specific route and some of the stuff there. But yeah, this will be a fun journey to take across, and I will save here and let go for now, but this should also be up on YouTube, and yeah, and then figure out from there. But yes, thank you so much. Hope you're all having a good day, and we'll leave it off there. Bye.